Now for a movie rant break, One Up presents a movie rant break. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the movie rant break. Today we got a super dope episode. I got a new guest and a returning guest today. I got John Smith.
What's up?
He's a regular. He's whack.
Fuck you.
And we got a new guest today. Honored to have this motherfucker on the show. We got Milo, aka the Minute.
The Miniminuteman.
The Miniminuteman.
Way to fuck it up, dude.
That's
you
me.
practice too.
I didn't practice.
Like every try before it. Don't worry.
Shit, the Miniminuteman.
Perfect. There you go.
So what's up, Milo?
You know, not a whole hell of a lot. It's really good to be here. I'm excited to be on the show. Going to be talking about some adventure today.
Word.
Yeah.
So just for everybody that doesn't know, Milo is a conspiracy theorist debunker / archaeologist.
Yes.
So today it's, I think, a really cool episode to be talking about Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, with an archaeologist who is super dope. So
I'm excited
appreciate
to be here.
you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This will be an interesting one, you know. Oh, there we go.
No, you're good.
Oh, that sounds a little better.
Yeah, just a little better.
Yeah, stoked to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, happy to kind of talk about things that I'm interested in and things that I like to think I have a little bit of knowledge in. To on
Only
sort
a
of
little bit of knowledge.
only a little bit of knowledge. You know, on sort of this a pop culture icon, Indiana Jones. I mean, we're going to get into it as we go into the episode, but it's one of the most iconic movies with just some of the most iconic scenes of all time. So
I think so.
And music.
and music. Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, so that's who's here today. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. And getting into it, as always, we got For a Cat. It was directed by Steven Spielberg. We got a screenplay by Lawrence Kasdan, story by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman. And you can definitely tell George Lucas had his hand in this project because the Indiana Jones music is so Star Wars-esque. It's ridiculous.
There's a lot of Star Wars stuff.
It's super Star Wars. Like, some of the frames and the way they do the shots. Yeah, facts.
There's a lot of Star Wars.
Film starring Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, Paul Freeman, Ronald Lacey, John Rhys Davies, and Denholm Elliott. Got cinematography, Douglas Slocum, which the cinematography in this film was actually pretty dope.
Yeah, it's
as
awesome.
well. Definitely worth mentioning. And you got the music by John Williams. This came out back in June 12th, 1981 with a runtime of 115 minutes. Budget, 20 mil. Box office, 389.9 million.
20 mil budget. That's crazy.
That's
not including inflation.
Yeah, I know. I wonder what it would be with inflation. That's still nuts. Damn.
So, a brief breakdown of this film. Takes place in 1936, where a professor / treasure hunter basically just goes searching for the lost artifact, being the Ark of the Covenant. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much baseline. Everybody knows this film. We don't have to get deep on the brief breakdown.
If you don't know this film, I don't know why you're here right now.
I think everybody's seen it. Relatively.
You're either a Miniminuteman fan who literally just debunks conspiracy theories based on archaeology and you haven't watched Indiana Jones, or you're just watching an Indiana Jones episode on a podcast that you've never seen Indiana Jones.
In a podcast that's about movies for movie fans. If you're a fan of movies, you've definitely seen it. Yeah,
for sure.
It's funny because I've only seen it twice probably in my life.
Really?
But after watching this, I was telling him, I kind of want to watch through all of them because there's 4 out now, and I think they're coming out with a 5th one.
They are
next year.
Are they really? I didn't even know.
They are. Yeah.
Oh, dope.
I'm keeping on my toes about it because after Crystal Skull, don't really know where it's going from here.
After every reboot that's happened in the last fucking
never
from Jumanji to fucking. And just literally all of these movies that have come out in the last couple of years that are all reboots or remakes or sequels, Ghostbusters, all that.
They just did Top Gun too.
Yeah, Top Gun was good.
Top Gun was actually a good movie. So that's the difference.
I haven't seen it yet because I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, and
fair enough.
Right, but I've heard only good things. So it's gonna and I'm probably gonna review the first one too.
Good call.
Because I heard there's like minor tie-ins or major ones. I don't know. Like,
you want to watch the first one. I watched the first one like the day before, and it made it so much more worth it. And I'd never seen the first one, so like I like watching both of them in a row was kind of fun. It was an experience.
Because that's also an 80s film, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it 80s? I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
So it's
I've only seen the first half of it, but I remember it being. It seemed 80s.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, so let's get into it. Like, obviously, with this group of individuals creatively, it was destined to be a solid film. I mean, you have George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. You could argue in their prime. Like, George Lucas coming off Star Wars, Steven Spielberg's coming off
E.T. Did he do E.T. before him?
I'm not sure, but it's in this. I think E.T.'s in the 90s, like early 90s.
I don't think so, dude. Please look that up.
Yeah, that's crazy. Fact check.
If you don't cite it, it's not real. Okay, it doesn't exist.
Okay, no, this actually he did E.T. in '82.
Yeah,
so he was like in his shit and like
the heyday. Yeah, really.
Yeah, so I mean, and he did Back to the Future too, right? What was that? That came out.
Oh God,
that was after. So this kind of like.
See, I didn't even know Steven Spielberg did.
Honestly, that was news to me as well. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so. Damn. Right? Am I tripping?
I'm actually not positive about that.
You're not positive about much, but like who? No, maybe he didn't do Back to the Future. I don't fucking know.
Something that I think is very funny about the movie that kind of proves that it was a heyday is that it's called Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
Like, they decided to add like a suffix onto it. Like, it's not just called Indiana Jones. They were like, yeah, we know that this is good enough that you're going to want another. Yeah. So they like gave it like a sequel-ready title right off the bat.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
Same with like, I mean, they did the same thing with Star Wars, if I'm imagining that correctly. I don't know if it was originally just called Star Wars.
I think it was just Star Wars originally, then they made it A New Hope later on.
Gotcha,
but I don't know if it was that much later. Yeah, and it was like I'm pretty sure it like happened within the same time period.
Okay, gotcha.
So they probably learned their lesson from Star Wars, because Star Wars came out before this, correct?
Yes, because that's where Harrison Ford got his start.
So like, I'm pretty sure they probably learned their lesson from Star Wars. They're like, okay, we're gonna do well enough doing
we
this
can make bank,
that we're gonna do it again. I just didn't even know. Like, I knew Steven Spielberg was Indiana Jones. I just didn't know George Lucas was like executive producer and like and fucking like, you know, the writer and shit. Like, I didn't know that was George Lucas, and that makes so much more sense now.
Yeah,
watching it, because I'm like, yo, this is literally just Star Wars. Like, it's just like let's make Star Wars again, but like make it like
Wild West.
Yeah, it's like cowboy archaeologist.
Which
so perfect.
I like the like connotation of the film being treasure hunting / sci-fi.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And because there's all these conspiracy theories around certain artifacts or treasure hunting, and then to kind of accept in the film, they like accept the fact that it's sci-fi.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And they like own it, and you're like, no, this artifact is real, and it does have this. Whatever you want to call is happening, like this
divine power.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, type shit. So it's like, I like the tone of the film. I think they're all kind of like that. Like, they're just really cool adventures that have this sci-fi like sprinkled into it that is kind of modest. And correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, I've seen them all probably like once, but I think they went too sci-fi in the fourth one, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that was they went too crazy.
That was definitely a killer for a lot of people. Because the thing about this film that I think learned to appreciate in my most recent watching, because I haven't seen it in like 2 years up until like yesterday night. And I really appreciated how good of a job they did making the artifact actually be something that did have like very like the supernatural power behind it. But but in, you know, they did it in such a modest way. Like, the very first time that you are confirmed that it actually is like the real Ark and it really does carry the power of God is when it's in the warehouse and the Nazi swastika is just like burnt.
Yeah.
And like they come to the box and it's all like charred off. Yeah. And it's like, it's a really little thing, but like it proves to you like this is something that's like really powerful. Yeah. And then of course the face melting scene is iconic.
Yeah. Super well done.
Oh my God, it's incredible.
Yeah. I love how they all died different ways too. Like one melted, one exploded, one like lit on fire. I'm like, what the fuck? This is how it doesn't choose how it murders people.
It just murders people.
God doesn't get out often from that chest. He's got to come out every once in a while and make a big show of it, you know?
That shit was cool.
Yeah.
Like, the special effects, if you will, in the film, some of it was a little clunky, and I know it's like 81 type doing the best they can. But that scene I did thought was done well. The face melting, the makeup and stuff.
I'm assuming that was some practical like wax
It was
slow-mo melt or something.
They did a good job of that.
It was dope. It was really good.
To do what they did in this film, I feel is even a bigger testament of respect because of how challenging it was at the time to do those things. And I want people that are listening to, obviously people already respect this film, but like for me who doesn't have anything invested in it, it makes me kind of, salute it because you got to put it in some sort of context where we're in 2022 and 81, that's 41 years ago. And that face melting scene is fire. Yeah. And some of the other effects are, not great.
You even said when the medallion thing, when it first projected
the beam
onto the beamed on the thing, you were like, dude, that CGI is fire.
I was joking.
And I was like, I don't know if it's exactly CGI, but it does look really good. He's like, you're like, it does look fantastic. Yeah.
I was being facetious.
No, I know. I'm saying it looks fantastic. That was your point though.
Yeah.
No, I was saying I was being facetious.
Oh, it didn't look good.
It didn't look good.
Oh, see, I thought it did.
I thought it looked bad.
I guess I'm
stick to your guns. Yeah.
Cool, whatever, dude. Fuck me then, right?
Yeah. Well, then and there was some things you could see, obviously some of the props being that now it's 4K and you can see it, or it's 1080. Some of the props are a little more
things. I think that was
snakes.
My biggest thing is things looked really light.
Yeah.
Everything they picked up, everything they moved, everything that fell and exploded, it all looked like it was what is it, plaster or something? It's very, 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 very light material.
And then you get scenes like the one with the airplane on the landing strip where the oil truck blows up, and it's holy shit, they blew up a fucking oil truck to film this. It's like there's these scenes which the special effects are awful, and they do something practical that's just insane. It's so cool.
I thought they were really on the ocean and had a submarine. I could be wrong, but I thought it was.
No, actually. I mean, it looked believable enough that I wouldn't doubt it,
Yeah.
Because when they're doing backdrops, the storm scene looks obviously terrible.
Yeah.
But then they're on the ocean and there's the freighter or whatever the fuck the ship's
those
called.
were probably real boats. And if that wasn't a real submarine, then they probably had some kind of thing holding it up, a barge or something. I don't know. It looked legit though.
It did look good regardless. And I thought the sets overall were good. And just most everything, but like I said, fake snakes. I could see that they put there was real snakes and then a couple stationary.
You even at one point was like, "That snake is fake."
I was like, I pointed. I was like,
I can see it.
There's they gotta fill out the space. You really can't go wrong. This whole series was so smart. We were talking about the third one with Sean Connery making a cameo, or he's in the film. But you got George Lucas, you got Steven Spielberg, and then you have Harrison Ford, who is such a fucking pimp.
Dude, he's awesome.
So ridiculous.
He's such a gangster.
And in his prime nonetheless.
Yeah.
And he's think about 81 what was out, and you put these people together and see the people. I can't imagine people watching this for the first time in the same way when people first saw Star Wars, they were like, what the fuck did I just watch?
This is insane.
This shit's the realest shit I've ever seen. So definitely was present in my mind watching it, because it definitely deserves its praise. And obviously with the people involved, it turned out great. And it kept it moving.
I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
So the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Right? Tell me about this in real life, because I know it's a thing.
Yes.
But is it a thing?
So the Lost Ark, as far as an artifact in and of itself, has obviously never been found.
Okay.
I'm not super well versed on biblical archaeology, though that is an entire subfield. I have some friends who are very knowledgeable in that stuff, so I can't speak on it as far as where it is theorized to be, or where it was theorized last seen, or whether or not there's any credibility to it truly existing.
Because I heard at one point they said that it even went to North America. There was somebody that even said it. They think it went to North America.
So because it's just such an infamous artifact, it's one of those things. It's it could be anywhere. All the conspiracies around it. I mean, at the very end, it ends up in the Area 51 warehouse, and then you get the appearance of it in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah, you see it very briefly in a box. But what I can speak to is that the whole thing about the Nazis looking for it was entirely true. The Nazis were obsessed with the occult. They were obsessed with this idea of they believed that an ancient Aryan race had come from the sky as aliens, populated Atlantis. Atlantis was destroyed, and the survivors of Atlantis went on to found the great civilizations of Europe. And so, yeah, they were obsessed with
so ridiculous.
Yeah, which is where ancient aliens conspiracies theories come from. So when you watch, the shit on the History Channel, those concepts were started by Nazis. So a little frightening there.
Interesting.
But as far as the Ark itself,
Just a little scary.
Yeah, a little terrifying, But as far as the Ark itself, there was actually a push to try and find the Ark, but I don't think it happened in North Africa. I think it was in Iceland or something like that. Why the fuck the Ark would be in Iceland?
Yeah, I think like somebody was saying that. Like I don't. It's brief. Like this is what happens with my brain. Like I hear a bunch of different fucking things from all over the place and like little pieces.
Yeah,
of it
you like
connect.
click it all
And I don't
together.
even know if I'm like connecting something that's not relevant to the other thing.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I heard that somebody like said at one point. I think I was watching some. Those shows. You probably know what shows I'm talking about. They're like these weird like. There's like these weird shows where they like go on like digs to like find something.
Yeah.
And like they're like, oh, we think we found this.
And they say stuff like the newest technology has revealed.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And then they like go and like the end of the show is like they pretty much go through the whole thing, and then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, well, we didn't find it this time.
Yeah, it's
But
like
always
the
same
Bigfoot
thing.
hunting
Yeah,
shows.
same exact
They
shit.
never actually find Bigfoot. Like,
Watch us next episode. We might find this shit.
It's always the same. But yeah, it was something like that. And they were like digging in North America, like I think I'm pretty sure it was like in Canada or something somewhere, and like saying that they think they found the Lost Ark or something, and they like dug up this like hole or something, and there was like nothing.
we
in
found a rock. It's great. Yeah.
Like, but we still think it could be over here.
We're gonna dig up the whole continent.
Weeds.
Yeah, really. Like the fuck. Oh, that's bizarre. I'm gonna have to look into that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
You mentioned Atlantis, and I'll just segue from the film for like a smidgy. Because it's something I want to ask you. Because that's always been like an interest of mine. And like doing research on it, I just feel like it's like, how can you do research on something that they don't know if it's real or not?
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah.
like that, like, and that's a lot of things where I'm like, how are people doing research on something when there is nothing to claim that it's real?
Actually real, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like Atlantis, you mentioned Atlantis, which I'm fascinated by the notion of, especially when you talk about they're the ones that inhabited Europe and
Yeah.
like so what's this all about? Like Atlantis, obviously I'm assuming you don't believe in it.
Yes.
But like what is there like anything that's curious to you about the notion of it and like how it came to be? Or is it just like outright stupid fairy tale? Like, is there nothing?
Well, I mean, that's a fantastic question, and I mean, it's worth taking my answer with a grain of salt because since there is no evidence of it, it is all opinion based when we talk about it. So Atlantis was first discussed in a book by Plato, I believe, and it was an analogy for human hubris. It was very similar to the Tower of Babel, where when humanity has grown past the point where it should, and we are so full of our pride that we will inevitably collapse. Yeah, so it was done as an analogy. Plato as a philosopher. Now, of course, this story was perpetuated, and one of the other things which you can talk a lot about when you tie these things together is flood myth. Flood mythos is something which is present in almost every culture on Earth. I mean, it's all over the Mediterranean, not only in the Bible and whatnot, but the very oldest story on Earth, the Epic of Gilgamesh, has a flood story which is shockingly similar to what's in the Bible. Do I think that's proof that there was a global flood that wiped out all life on Earth? Not particularly. I don't think it's unlikely that people wrote about these things because water was a common feature in a lot of people's living spaces at the time. You have to build around fresh water for drinking or for fishing or whatever. And, the same thing that can give you life can also give death. I do think that there is a very, kind of poetic part of that, which could be the inspiration for why so many of these stories were written. As for Atlantis, I don't think that it's impossible that there was once a city that this is based upon. Were they space aliens who built a giant metropolis in the middle of the ocean with technology we have now? I highly doubt it. But it's very easy. How, the second something is lost, it immediately becomes deified and it becomes so much more mysterious until it's found again. So I don't think it's possible Atlantis was based on a real place, but by and large, the whole hocus pocus story was an analogy.
Yeah, but do you believe in aliens though?
Oh, absolutely.
So you believe? See, this is the thing that always gets me about your content because I'm always like, I've had a really hard time believing in aliens lately.
Yeah,
right? And the reason is because I really have done some thinking on it and like especially when you start really getting an idea of how fast the speed of light is.
Yes.
It's like you can go around the Earth like 11 times in like 11 seconds going the speed of light.
Jesus
so it's
Christ.
Like, so, you know what I'm saying? Like around the center of the Earth.
That is fast.
So like when I start really breaking it down, I'm like, okay, so like if you even if you had a ship that could go the speed of light, right? If something's like 200 light years away, like
that's generations.
Like you'd be like, okay, like I'm just gonna hop on a plane to go like 200 light years, like 200 years, and then like, just to like peek at a planet for a second and be like, oh, look at this, they have trees, and then like fly back 200 years again to go back home. I'm like, I just like I can't wrap my head around that. Like obviously the theory I think is I think it's like quantum, like some kind of quantum travel or something. Like I think like there's more to it, like black holes or something. I think there's more to this traveling than people like would just say like you have a really fast machine.
Yeah, for sure.
But like the speed limit of the universe is like the speed of light. Like, that's the speed limit. Like you can't go faster than it. You know what I mean? So like unless you find some way to travel through space time in a different way, like there's really no way that you can just like get to Earth easily. So like even if aliens exist, like would they have really just like come here?
Exactly.
I don't know.
So that's the thing that I think is interesting, because while yes, I do believe in them, I don't believe that they would have ever come to Earth, because why the fuck would they?
Right.
Like genuinely, what do we have here that another planet doesn't have? There's like
bitches.
A moon around, like we do have bitches. That's honestly very fair.
Lots of bitches.
Lots of bitches.
So like they got hella bitches on Earth.
It is worth the 200 light years. But like, I mean,
did you hear they have strip clubs on Earth? They have poles,
but there's got to be a closer fucking planet that has those.
Maybe
you know, like
not,
come on,
maybe not.
Exactly. You think they got an idea and maybe started their own? Jesus Christ.
We got bitches in hip hop. Like fuck, they're killing it over there.
For real, dude.
Yeah, it's bizarre though. It's like, you know, all of the conspiracies revolve around people being like, you know, they came here to mine gold or get like, why the fuck didn't they just go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Like asteroids are like full of precious metals that like people are like looking to like mine now and stuff. They could just go to an asteroid belt near where they are and probably be way more profitable than Earth that has a hostile population towards them.
Yeah, right.
Like,
That's
I
what
don't
I
know.
always
It
hear.
makes no fucking sense. Also, why would they want gold? Like, do you think aliens are like,
For
dude, that chain,
bitches.
that's fucking dope. Can I have that?
I love for bitches.
For bitches. Okay, fair enough. They all love gold. It's interplanetary.
Yo, like, yo.
That's funny as fuck.
I like on the notion with thinking there's aliens or not. I always play devil's advocate. And I'm like, there's just as much odds that there isn't as there is, and I just leave it at that. I got more shit to worry about.
For sure.
And like they're out here watching. Like if they are, there's nothing you gotta do about it.
Yeah, it's an unfalsifiable hypothesis. It's like someone telling you that like God does or doesn't exist. I can't prove it either way. So
Either you
for all I
believe it
know,
or you
you
don't.
either believe it or you don't. It's a personal truth, and you can't argue with that. You know.
I also have like gripes with science in general. Like I'm not anti-science. I love
for sure.
science in like most ways. The one things I don't like about it is where they're always like science is facts, where science is constantly evolving
For sure.
and they're learning more. And like the thing you talk about things you can't prove. I find science to be very, I'm not saying I'm the brightest motherfucker, but when people were like, we can see this telescope 50 light years away and there's like water over there. I'm like, no, you don't see that. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that you couldn't, but it seems, I'm like, how many miles away? I'm like, how do you even know how to measure infinite space? Like that whole notion frustrates me, and I'm sure someone's gonna be like, you idiot, this is such a, but
This is how it works.
Yeah, but I'm like, does it? It's just because you read it in a book doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Like to me, like,
And that's one of the things I think makes science really difficult is it's so not adapted for the average person to understand.
wow.
It's not.
Wow.
You just said that you're not a scientist.
Wow.
You know? So if you
Y'all heard this.
If you I called you an average person. No. If
You
come
are.
on your show. Disrespect.
I am pretty average.
No, but it's like if you have like an average, understanding of space and science and shit, and like some NASA scientist walked in here and started talking to you about it, the three of us would go right over our fucking heads. Absolutely no.
Well, that's
idea.
like the whole flat Earth thing, right? Like,
It is.
Like flat Earth is really built around a bunch of people who aren't scientists, like trying to debunk NASA with like some bullshit scientific method that they created in a garage. Trying to figure out that the Earth is flat. Now that doesn't mean that I'm convinced the Earth isn't flat. I
haven't actually seen it
I
from
can't
space,
confirm
so
this.
valid.
You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying I have no fucking idea. I'm just saying like the majority of people who are flat earthers, like when you listen to their argument, it's like if you stand on top of a mountain and look far enough, you can't see
All right, we back. High disturbance, technical difficulties. We here. John Smith, Take it away.
Yeah, nonetheless. So check this out. If you're like most of the people who are, these conspiracy theorists, like the flat earthers, they're pretty much doing this scientific method of like, if I can stand on top of a mountain and I can't see the Earth's curvature, then therefore there's no curve in the Earth. And I'm always just like, bro, like if an ant stood on a boulder, like he wouldn't see a curve in the Earth either. Like you could even put him on a toothpick, he still wouldn't be able to see a curve in the Earth. Like you're just not high enough up. You know what I mean? Like it's not a big fucking deal. So it's like it's always like this battle between like perspective science versus like real scientific method through like real scientific practices, right?
Because it's very hard to believe something that you can't see. Like if any of us went outside right now, stood on the fucking porch and looked out into the woods, you couldn't tell that the Earth is round.
Even an average person?
Even an average person. So if you went out there, right, you wouldn't be able to tell the Earth is round, So until you're like in a fucking spaceship looking at the Earth from the sky with your own two eyes, you don't have, that concrete proof. But we have thousands and thousands of pieces of actual scientific evidence proving it.
I mean, the argument's always about the flat Earth thing. The argument's always that like NASA's full of shit.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's another thing I wonder.
Everything NASA, and then what else do we have?
So that's a perfect way for them to just filibuster their way into being right, because it's so much easier to say bullshit than to actually research things. Right. So if you just if there is an organization that's in charge of actually researching this stuff, all you have to do is just be like, oh, well, they're lying to you. Right. It's they,
I do like, but see, science, I do like deductive reasoning.
Oh, absolutely.
So I like to always put stuff in perspective. In the sense of, like, if NASA is fraudulent, is there proof that the Earth is round, right? So, in that scenario, if they're not fraudulent, right, then obviously, if they're not fraudulent, there's tons of proof. But if they are, and let's say every other space organization in the world is also fraudulent as well, is there proof that the Earth is round?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another interesting thing is, if you take into account, the mentality that a lot of flat earthers seem to have is that NASA is the only one saying that the Earth is round. When it's you can go back to ancient Egypt and they knew the Earth was round by looking at the length of obelisk shadows in two different places.
Yeah. I was gonna bring that up. They in different far distances. I thought they would check if you could
on the same day.
Yeah, which debunks just that notion alone, the whole flat Earth bullshit.
And it was done 3,000 years ago. You don't need a fucking satellite.
But aliens did.
It was aliens. Yeah. Aliens made the Earth round. I don't know.
For real. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean,
No, I was just going to bounce off that one more time, just be because I know a lot of your conspiracy debunking revolves around, people pretty much trying to say these ancient civilizations weren't skilled enough to be able to do stuff on their own. I think there is some weirdness when it comes to the way the pyramids were built, in the sense of I don't know about the whole we couldn't build these now. I'm pretty sure we can. You can watch a video of you do that, but the fact that they are so precise, right? That, and how long did it take, and how many work hours did it take? Is it possible that they did it? Yeah, I'm sure it is.
20 years round the clock. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So, but I think there is value in the sense of being doubled down and being look, these people were smarter than we give them credit for, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good point.
They're average. They're average.
Well, they were a little above average.
Where do I fit in? Where do the average people go?
The level of averageness is going down.
I'm on average. I'm on average.
Every word.
Your poles are slipping.
Shit.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Indiana Jones.
Yo. He's really Indiana Jones in real life. Dude crashed an airplane and survived at age 70. Harrison Ford. Did you ever hear
shit, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a fact.
Fuck?
Yeah, I say couple, but I'm pretty sure it was, I don't know, it could be 7 years ago.
Oh my god.
But yeah, he has his own planes and whatnot, and he crashed a plane and survived.
He's a gangster.
He's really Indiana Jones.
That's sick.
Dude, one of the funniest things about this movie to me was just the interactions with the female lead. What was her name?
Marion.
Yeah. The interactions with her, just all the time. First of all, she's a gangster. You were gonna.
Oh yeah, no, she's
people always talk about damsels in stress. Women specifically will be oh, they're always in need of a man.
Yeah.
But this woman needed the help of a man, but didn't, and was out drinking men and outwitting.
Yeah, she was just
it's they've been doing. It's
she
not.
was badass.
Yeah, the women always get held with respect. It just depends on the character that you're playing. You know what I mean? They've been since the '80s and before. Look at Leia. 70s. She's like the strongest bitch ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like so that whole notion I want to bring up, like they always have had a respect in Hollywood. Like obviously King Kong, they got the girl, but like in so many films, even to this day, now in my opinion, it's a little overdone with the making a point of the strength of a female. But they've always respected them, I think, to some degree.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a period where the mentality was so much more backwards than it is now and was in the era of, you know, the film we're talking about today. Right. So there definitely were a lot of movies where it's like, I grew up watching, you know, a lot of black and white movies with my family and stuff. Errol Flynn, I fucking love Errol Flynn. He was an old, you know, swashbuckler, you know, actor in black and white movies, always played a pirate. Every fucking woman in those movies, like they couldn't walk without a man there. And it's just like, why the fuck are you guys doing this? Like you can have her be an actual character, believe it or not. So it's great to like watch a movie like this where it's like, yeah, you know, she got like captured, but anytime someone is like coming up to her, she just tells them to go fuck themselves right to her face, you know, like she is just badass. It's fucking awesome. Yeah, and then it's funny because you get followed up with a movie like I don't know when the last time you guys watched Temple of Doom was.
I haven't.
But like
in a minute.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's my least favorite of them, honestly. I like Crystal Skull more than I like Temple of Doom, believe it or not.
That's crazy.
But the female lead in that is just like the most useless person ever. I'm like, why did you write this character after you wrote Marion, who's just badass? And this person is just like, you know, like, oh, my dress is gonna get dirty. It's like, make her more than just like that. Come on.
I think it's a cool dynamic to change out from the first one. Like,
it is. It's so a funny situation to put them in, you know? Yeah, but it's a cheap laugh. It's just like, come on, like make her at least develop through the movie to be like, all right, I can deal with this, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah. Or that like that way she acts gets her killed, which would be
that would be
like,
ironic.
Okay, she's stupid enough where it actually got her murdered.
Yeah, it's like, well, shit. Repercussions.
Yeah, but no, because another thing that I noticed was just like I feel like the accents were all over the place. Like I feel like there wasn't any single accent in there that was accurate. Like that guy was supposed to be like his like arch nemesis was supposed to be French. Like he was breaking in and out of a French accent. Like sometimes it was French, sometimes it was like British, sometimes it was just straight American. Like I don't know like where he was at there. And then I think their depiction of Egypt. Like I just watched Moon Knight. Like I don't know if you've heard of it.
I actually haven't seen it yet. I heard it's good though.
But like I just watched Moon Knight and like I guess they did a really, really good job at representing what Cairo looks like. Like in that show. I mean, I thought it was cool, but like I just think their like depiction of Cairo and this is just hilarious. Everybody's wearing white robes. Like nobody has anything else to wear but white robes. Yeah. There's one guy who had a black robe on.
And he got shot instantly.
It's like, oh, you wear something different?
Get the fuck out of here.
Even Indiana Jones at one point was like, he like walked into the room with the French guy and he's like, these Arabs don't give a shit.
Yeah, there definitely is some like very like subtle racism in it that I'm like, well, it's not even that subtle. It's pretty, you know, apparent now. But it's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way that Cairo's ever just like a ton of people with like white robes and white turbans on.
Not speaking to each other, just walking around like,
cheering for like Indiana Jones when he like drives by in a truck. They have no idea who he is. He just drove 30 miles.
Indiana Jones.
I loved it though.
Nice hat. Dude, he invented brown. That's a great color. Wow, we should try that. It is. It's bizarre, some of the representations of Cairo in that film for sure. Yeah.
So like how much of this movie was actual archaeology? Like
fucking none of it. That's the other thing is like Indiana Jones, great, you know, you can obviously, you know, talk day in and day out about like sexism and racism and stuff like that. And while those are all important things to talk about, it's like it's a movie from the 80s, take it with a grain of salt. We know, you know, but when you look at it as far as like an adventurer, like he's a great adventurer, he's a fucking awful archaeologist. I mean, like as far as, you know, the thing that comes off the top of my head, you know, homicide is genuinely frowned upon when you're, you know, doing an archaeological dig. You're not really supposed to do that.
He murked so many people.
He killed so many fucking people. He killed more people than he found artifacts.
I feel like them were Nazis. We're okay with it.
That's fair. So like that's all right. You can kill those. Those don't really count. But like, come on. So still he racked up a pretty big death toll. But I mean, just the other things, like when he, you know, goes down into the, you know, into the tomb with like the Anubis sculpture, and
that's
they
so
lift
not Egyptian.
Up. It's like
painted.
It was it's just like this giant. I don't know what that was supposed to be. Either way, they lift up the like the cover of the, you know, the stone sarcophagus that the Ark is in, and just throw it, and it just fucking shatters. I'm like, this held the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah.
For real. I was like, I looked over when we were watching. I was like, there's no way those two men could pick that rock.
Oh,
up.
absolutely
no
not.
Fucking
that
way.
thing weighed tons. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, like, in the very beginning, I mean, it starts off with him stealing an idol. Like, he has like two guides with him, and he's like, I can't remember what the tribe was that lived there, but he's like, like, oh yeah, there's poison darts. They're fresh around here. Like, so maybe you're stealing from them. Maybe you don't do that. And to be fair, he's trying to get it before, a Nazi archaeologist rival is, and he wants to put it in a museum. But, even now, it's acknowledged that just because something was taken for the intent of going to a museum does not mean that it was justified. Right. I mean, like recently there's like, the Elgin marbles are a big one, which were the statues at the top of the Acropolis. And those are currently held in the British Museum in London, even though they're Greek. And there's been all this stuff about like, can we have those back, please? Because you just took them from us. So it's like, yeah, it's great. They're in a museum. His whole slogan throughout the movie is it belongs in a museum. But like, you still stole it. So yeah, like even like the Ark of the Covenant, like it's like you took it off of Egyptian soil so it could go in a United States museum. So even some modern archaeological principles or a warehouse. It's not even put in a museum. So his morals were good, that he wants it to be for public education, but still.
But I just think it shows like all this movie just kept reminding me is that like. Apparently the Nazis put a lot more money into things they want than Americans do, because the American government was like, here, we'll give you $5,000 and like a plane. Figure it out. The Nazi government's like, let's like hire a fucking fuckload of people to go get this shit.
Here's 10,000 people and 10,000 shovels. Get to work. No, absolutely.
So that's what I was wondering when I was watching it. He was just trying to steal shit for museums. Like he wasn't making shit off it. His intent.
He was making money, but he was getting paid to get it into a museum.
Yeah, for sure. So there's even a part at the beginning. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it's the first scene of him in his classroom. He's in his professor attire, and
he's a student.
The other guy comes in. Oh yeah, the love you thing, hilarious scene. But like right after that, I think it was Marcus Brody. The other guy comes in, another professor, and he's talking about like funding. He's like, I'm going to go try and find the idol that he stole at the beginning, but it was picked up by Belloc, and he's like, I need funding for it. And he pulls out a bunch of artifacts. He's like, sell these to the museum. And then the guy says, or Belloc says, or not Belloc, whatever the other professor's name is. He says like, oh, the museum will take them, no questions asked. And it's like, oh yeah, that's great. They'll be in a museum, but where the fuck are these from? Like, it's great to look at them in a museum, but the whole point of archaeology is to record it, because once it has been taken out of the context, it's fucking useless. Right. Like, yeah, it's really cool to look at an arrowhead in a museum, but if that arrowhead was found in the dirt, in like a human femur, like it'll tell you so much more. So once that thing has been taken, it's effectively useless.
Right.
Even the temple in the very beginning where he gets the fertility idol. I mean, the whole thing got fucking destroyed. It's like, imagine how much you could have learned about carvings, and obviously it's fictitious, but so it's interesting. In real life, it's like, I mean, that whole site could have yielded so much information.
I think a modern like version of that in a movie is like Black Panther. Have you seen it?
I actually haven't.
So in Black Panther, there's a part where Michael B. Jordan's character like goes into the museum, and he's like asking this like white lady who works in the museum. He's like, so like, where did this come from? And she's like, oh, this came from this tribe in Africa. Da, da, da. He's like, okay, where did this come from? He's like, this other tribe in Africa. He's like, yeah, what about this? And she's like, this I think came from like the same tribe. Da, da. He's like, nah, this came from Wakanda. Like,
I see.
Nah, this came from Wakanda, and you stole it from my ancestors.
Holy
and he's like,
shit!
He's like, just like you stole everything else in this museum,
dude.
And
that
then
is
like,
hard.
and then he like poisons her. They like kill everybody and steals it back.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's fire. So like
that's fucking awesome. That's exactly it.
That scene is cool. It's like, nah, you stole this from my ancestors, just like you stole everything else. He also takes like a mask too from there. He like grabs the mask. The guy's like, is that also vibranium? The guy's with who's Andy Serkis. He's with Andy Serkis. Like, is that also vibranium? He's like, nah, I just liked it. He's like, I just like the way it makes.
I mean, they stole it. I may as well just steal it as well. That's great. Shit.
On the tip, like back to when he's a professor and the beginning of the film, and that chick's got "I love you" and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought the whole representation of like what this guy was and how people perceive him was so funny. Like throughout, he's got like his students, "I love you" on the eyelids, and then he's got this other damsel in Nepal, and she loves him, and like everywhere he goes, like these chicks like think he's like this awesome thing, and he's such a pimp about it. Where like this bitch is a prisoner, and he like leaves her. he just like
You gotta stay here. I gotta get the art.
Yeah, he's like, I got bigger shit to worry about. Yeah,
and that's why
it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's why I asked like his motivation. He's wanted for a museum. He makes a little money, but like in the process, like he could give a fuck about the girl. He like leaves her to go get an artifact and like treasure hunt. Like I just like the whole. I don't know. This character I think is so funny and interesting. I can see why it's so popular.
Even his motivation to like go see her in the first place was not to see her. It was because he needed to talk to her dad, who was dead, in order to find the thing. Yeah. So he's like even like the whole thing with the money. He's like, I'm sorry about all of it, and they never really talk about the relationship they had prior. But I do think it's very funny that like he's like, look, I just need to get this one thing. You can hold a grudge against me all you want, but I just need the fucking arc, and I'm gonna dip. So it's interesting.
He thinks she dies, and the way they transition is so funny because like he thinks she dies, and then it just clips to him like having a drink with a monkey.
Yeah, with the monkey. I fucking love that scene.
Funny.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah,
he's such a pip. And then the next scene, the monkey gets murked, and then the monkey's there. Like, all right,
Nazi monkeys.
Nazi
you gotta watch out for the fuckers, you know.
Yeah, I was kind of confused about that too, because like that guy with the patch, like he was like he just like murdered his own monkey.
Yeah, accidentally, I guess. He didn't tell the monkey. Oh, yeah, no, on purpose. Fuck this monkey, man.
He just fucking, like, dude, we should have seen him at one point, like, almost like in Star Wars when, like, the animal in the dungeon, the big creature, what's it called? The thing in the dungeon? When it's in the Return of the Jedi. When it gets murked by Luke. Luke.
What the fuck is this?
And then the guy who like trained it like comes out and starts crying. He's like, oh,
that would have been actually.
Like, I want to see the patch man to cry about his
shit.
Like, you give a fuck about the monkey.
Dude, I love him.
How do you feel about his weapon of choice, which is the whip?
The whip's fucking awesome. The whip's awesome. It's just, it's weird. It's unique. I mean, it hasn't been done enough for it to be like iconic for another character. Like, Indiana Jones has the whip. Yeah, he has his like fucking Colt, but he's got the whip, and that's the weapon. It's sick.
He's such a pimp. He like has a whip. Like I'm saying, like I don't mean to like keep like being redundant with it, but like this character, there's a reason I think he's so dope. He's like Harrison Ford, who's like the man.
Yeah,
he's coming off fucking Star Wars, and he does Indiana Jones. All the bitches are like obsessed with him. His weapon is a whip. He's a professor at a college, but all the students fuck with him.
Sexy professor, explorer, archaeologist icon.
Yeah,
like it doesn't get better than that. He made the fucking genre.
How can you make like archaeology was not a hot thing and being a professor? He like makes it like a thing. It's so sick. So like I just want to like really give the man props and the writer who made the characters and everything. Like it is super
There's
dope.
So much iconic shit in this movie. Like, the music, first of all, you don't realize how iconic the music. Yeah, I've heard it when I go to like I don't know what it's Universal or something. Is it Disney? The places where Indiana Jones ride is?
Yeah, now it is, I suppose. Yeah.
So, like, there's, like, obviously when you go on the rides, like, there's the Indiana Jones ride that has the songs and whatnot, but, like, the boulder rolling, running,
shit.
like...
the chase scenes, like, there's always chase scenes because he's, like, has treasure or he's trying to get away from someone. Like, that's a very iconic thing, which, at the time, too, those are hard to do. Like, they're driving real cars, like, in the desert, I think. You know what I mean? Like, blowing shit up, and that's become a staple, I think, in all the...
I'm pretty sure they really drove that car off that cliff with all those people. There were casualties in making this movie. Rest in peace.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Shit.
I was like, and when that happened, I was like, oh my God.
Holy fuck, they're actually dead.
That's a real
Jesus.
cliff.
Oh shit. Oh my God. Yeah, that the like chase scenes are also just so good. Like I think something that really speaks to them is just how simple they are. Like the car chase where he's like climbing around the cars, like so much happens and the scene never really changes. Like, yeah, like a car will crash or like some people will jump off, but like you're always aware of like exactly what's happening. And like, you know, there's no giant explosions and, you know, like planes and stuff. And they do that in other movies and it's cool, but like, it's just such a simple concept. Even the plane on the tarmac, like little things are introduced, like the guy falls forward and it starts moving. So it adds another element and then the oil starts flowing and she gets locked in the cabin. Like they're all just tiny little things. It doesn't change the setting really at all, but it just keeps building the suspense. They're just expertly done. It's really good.
They definitely utilize this, like what they're doing well by like having progression in the scene. Like the fucking car chase scene is a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Which for like 81, like that's even more challenging. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the execution needs to be really there because it's not like you can go in
CG it all perfectly.
It's just another testament of like, wow, this movie really holds it down.
And the simplicity like you're talking about is like is so it's so undervalued now in cinema. Like you go into movies and there's just so much, like you said, explosions and planes and flips and booms and bams, and it's like you lose. Someone's cutting, you know. Like it just loses that authenticity feel. Like if I go watch a Fast and the Furious movie now, you know,
great
it's like,
example.
I'm just like, dude, I can't even follow this because they're flying in outer space. Like I'm like, what is going on in a car? I'm like, this is just not even legitimate.
I think the classic one is like Transformers.
Yeah,
like all the Michael Bay shit where you just like watch it. It's like, it's fun to watch because you can just shut your brain off and be like, just as all this crazy shit is happening, and then like you watch this and like I feel more stressed watching Indy hold on to the grill of the front of a car and like one of the things bends than I do when I see Optimus Prime just like just killing civilians or fucking whatever. Yeah, just like on a highway blows up. It's like it's more stressful to just be like it's very just like intimate scene. Like you're very focused on everyone that matters. And all the stuff feels real. It's really well done.
There's definitely when you watch I guess say iconic or just really well done older film, they hit a little different, and when you're watching you're like, this is cinema. You know what I mean? And sometimes with all the digital nowadays, I do feel some of it's a little saturated and just cheap. Even like expensive movies like Marvel, like I don't want to say cut corners, but because of the technology, they like miss out on certain elements, and then we like praise when they like kind of cut corners less. You're like, oh, the cinematography, like they did that one shot. It's like, but normally they just kind of do everything in post. It's not as authentic and real and something that you can be like invested in, like the fucking fake car that fell off. You were like, oh shit. It was like,
it was like, that's like a wild thing to happen just in the mix of like this like little car chase. Have you ever seen Iron Man 1?
Yes.
Okay, so like,
movie.
Like for example, what you're saying is like in Iron Man 1, we watched the suit get put together piece by piece when he puts it on, and it's like such an amazing moment. And then you get to like Infinity War, like, where he presses a button and it just gets on his body. So it's like you lose over time because they're trying to do so much more. You lose that like the little stuff that really makes it like interesting and intriguing because you're seeing each piece of the puzzle being put together. And that's kind of the same thing with this. It's like right now we have so much more investment in this car chase scene that's happening with just like a couple people on a road, and him jumping around on the truck and whatnot, because it's just it's the simple stuff, right? It's the small stuff. We don't need like all the crazy extra crazy, because then when a car does fly off a cliff, I'm like, holy shit, fucking car just fell off a fucking cliff.
You think they're okay? Shit, these people are fucking dead.
It's crazy.
How did you feel about the choreograph and the fighting and shit?
I think it's fun. I don't think it's like believable per se. Like there's some parts that are just like, okay, come on. Like the punch sound effect is so like outdated, where it's just very obviously a Foley artist just like hitting some meat or something like that, and it's like the same sound every time. But like it's fun to watch. There's one I know it's from The Last Crusade, but like the one where he pulls out a Luger and he like shoots like 4 people like through, and it's like it's kind of like campy, but it's hilarious, and it's like, this is fucking awesome. And through all of those movies, the fighting just feels like so enjoyable to watch. Like the two of them fighting. Again, I know I keep bringing up the plane scene, but that one's great because like it shows Indy is just fucking unstoppable for so much of it, and then this guy comes out who's just like a fucking mountain of a person and just kicks his ass. And like you see like a whole different type of fighting. Like it's creative. It's not just a boxing match now. Indy like throws sand at him and like kicks him in the balls and like does all this shit to be like, I'm gonna try and like outmaneuver him because I know I can't just outgun him. So like even though a lot of it is very kind of cheesy now, like this is what like set the standard. There's a little breeze. Oh, there we go. So I don't know. I think it's real good. But
I fuck with it. It's quirky, but I fucks with it.
No, fucking like there was one part that I watched that I was like, it was when she pulls out the pan. And then she runs around the corner and you just see her running and him chasing, and like he turns around the corner into the room like really like slow and like just like dainty, like he's chasing this girl trying to kill her, and he like runs around the corner and he just like turns in, and then all of a sudden he falls out, and I was just like, yo, I was like this is just so like campy. It's fantastic.
Like Miles said with the fighting stuff, I look at it as like quirky, and you just kind of like chuckle at it. Like this is the style. It was almost a style. You know what I mean? Even though it kind of wasn't, it's just like what the pinnacle I think of choreograph was for fighting. Like this is how the best we can make it look. And so I take it for Quark and just kind of move on. I just laugh at it.
I think I was thinking about when I was watching it. You know how like they start digging like in the same dig site, but like 30 feet away.
Yeah.
Like nobody notices that.
Yeah.
Like until like they've already got in and got the ark out. Like just nobody notices this random group of people like up over on this hill,
all
like
the time.
digging this other. Like I was like, how? Like, there's no way that someone wasn't there. They don't have like a perimeter set.
Yeah.
And even when they like stopped him after he jumped it down, he had like the rope in there.
Yeah.
And like, what was his friend's name? I don't even know what his friend's name was.
Yeah.
But anyway, like
Sala, I think.
Sala,
yeah.
So they like get him and they like pull him away, and like they didn't even like check the hole to see if somebody was in there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is going on?
There are a lot of definitely like just like big plot things. Like the one that always got me was, you know, he saves a day, jumps off the ship, and ends up on the U-boat. And then it shows the U-boat like sailing through the Mediterranean. I'm like, you're telling me these motherfuckers didn't go underwater that whole fucking time? Like that's the whole point of a U-boat, you know? So either they didn't go underwater or this man can hold his breath for a really long time.
He was soaking
That's
wet.
true. So like one way or another,
or what? But he was soaking wet. So maybe he just is Aquaman.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
So, and it's things like that where I'm like, yeah, does that make any sense? Absolutely fucking not. Do I love it anyway? Hell yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that's so funny.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, in archaeology, is there ever a situation where, like, you know how he finds the staff and the medallion, and like the light hits it the right way, and it hits a location on this little map, and it tells him exactly where like this dig site is supposed to be? Like, is there ever anything like proven like in the history that comes to your mind that's like where there's almost like this kind of like a treasure hunt thing for any kind of a location? Like, I'm curious because I feel like that's a common theme. Even like in Assassin's Creed, I'm an Assassin's Creed fan.
For sure.
Like in Assassin's Creed, you had to get like this staff in order to open up this chamber and like do that. You know what I mean? Like it's always like this kind of thing. You know?
Is there treasure maps or not?
I mean, I'm sure there are treasure maps, but I also don't know why how a treasure map would come into like fruition. Like, why would you leave a map that just shows you exactly where to go for all your valuable shit? You know, like I would just be like, well, I remember where it is. I'll go get it later. You know, so I'd rather bank on that than have a paper trail to it. So I think that like there are obviously, you know, ways where things have been tracked down, but I don't think it would be quite as quest-like as, you know, Assassin's Creed or in Indiana Jones, where, you know, he finds the staff and he connects it and the light falls through. As far as light hitting stuff, I mean, there's a whole lot of things that work with the solstice, which are kind of neat. So I guess one that kind of comes to mind is there's a place out west called the Anasazi Sundial, which is like these 3 slabs of like stone which have this carving on like a cliff face next to them, and not only do the shadows all line up on this carving at the winter and summer solstice, but they also do the equinox, like halfway between. Like they managed to time it all perfectly, so the shadow of these 3 giant like multi-ton stones all fall in like different places on this carving at these specific times of the year. Cool. So like, you know, while it is unlikely that there would be a gemstone that shines a beam at the right place because the sun's in a different place every day, you're not going to get it through the same hole every time. But you know, there are that technology of people tracking the sun and using the sun for their ceremonies was very true. So there's things quite similar to that, but not to that quest-like extent, unfortunately. Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to find a treasure map.
I mean, there might be one out
That's
there.
on my bucket list. Is to
Find a treasure map
and like hunt the treasure down.
Dude, free birthday gift idea. Make him a scavenger hunt.
Dude.
Hide a present
a-
somewhere.
Whoa.
Hell yeah.
Make sure it's like easy enough for an average person to solve.
Yeah. Don't, you know, no NASA shit. No science
Don't
shit.
play a little bit less. I don't want. Yeah, no sundials and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there like any gripes you had with the film when you watched it? Or you're like, that kind of angers me that they're portraying this.
I think that all of the stuff that would even begin to fall into that category are things which are just me looking at it through a modern lens. Because like I really don't think a lot of what I would have to say on that would be particularly valid in judging the film. Because again, like there were a lot of things which made me go like, ooh, like when he walked into a room and said, "These Arabs," it's like, that's a little questionable. Definitely don't do that, you know? But it's also like, this came out in the 80s. It takes place in the 30s.
Yeah,
so I'm like, yeah, it's different now. It's different now. That's okay. Right. I don't have to, I'm not going to make a big point about being like, we have to change this because it's a fucking great movie.
Right,
and anyone could watch that and be like, ugh, and then just watch the rest of it.
Right.
You know, like no one's going to base their actions off of that.
I mean, that's my take on it. Like when I see things in music, in films, where I'm like, that's not how that goes down.
Yeah.
That's why I love Hustle and Flow, because when they make, have you seen Hustle and Flow?
I don't think so, no.
So there's
Terrence
like,
Howard. You know Terrence Howard?
I am striking zeros.
Take it.
when you're trying to get this money for the rent.
Hey. So there's we'll accept it. So there's like a scene in there. I think there's a couple scenes where this pimp he wants to be a rapper, right?
Yeah.
So he gets like some gear and stuff, and they're like in the studio making a record. And it's actually like how it goes a lot of times in the studio, like, and that's why I love the film, because like there's a couple scenes there. I'm like, this is kind of how it goes, where people are like, oh, that's hot, yeah, loop it, yeah, oh, I'm feeling it, you know what I mean? So it's like a cool, organic way, I think, how you make records. And actually, I think that that album for the movie, I don't think it went in gold or some shit. Don't quote me, but it got clout. Like I have bought the records from the movie. Like, and Terrence Howard, the actor, rapped for the whole. He like rapped the whole album.
Damn.
For the, it's a cool movie. It's probably my favorite rap film, Hustle Flow. But yeah, so that's my take. Like probably in the same sense with like archaeology. You're just like, I don't like that. Moving on. But like when you see cool stuff, you're like, oh, that's tight. Like I fuck with this because it's actually accurate. But do
you think this movie did service to the world of archaeology, or do you think it did a disservice to it?
That's a great question. I think that
average question.
Yeah, I'd say that
just jealous.
It did.
Fuck
by,
you.
I want to ask an average question. I think that what it did was it thrust archaeology into the mainstream. Like the whole, I know you mentioned like the whole just like suave professor thing. Archaeology's not fucking sexy, but he makes it sexy. Like you have the girl with the writing on her eyes and shit. So, but not only that, I think it just made people. It obviously glorified it. It is not representative of what archaeology is. But before that, people didn't really give that much of a shit about archaeology. Like as far as like pop culture, there wasn't a lot. Like, yeah, people talked about pyramids and this and that, but it was kind of reserved to, dinosaurs, but it was reserved to like academic circles or like specific niche interests. Like there wasn't like any real pop culture archaeologist. And so by doing this, it put it into the mainstream, and it was an inspiration for people like me. He was, obviously an inspiration doing what I want to do. I have a full movie poster of his on my wall at my house.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, I hear so many people talk about like they reference Indiana Jones when talking about archaeology. They talk about how, it's like, oh, it's so cool. I watched Indiana Jones growing up and now I watch your videos. So it's like, what it did was not a service for academic archaeology, but it made it a popular thing. It made it things that people are interested in. Right. And no one watches that movie and thinks archaeologists all carry a fucking gun and a whip and kill people.
But they should.
But they should. Yeah, but they see that and they're like, that's fucking dope. Yeah, exactly. So
the aliens up there taking notes. They're like, we need to bring.
I need a big fucking hat and
whips, chains.
Whips.
Hold the chains.
Yeah, hold the chains. We'll work on whips. That. Yeah, good start. Yeah, for sure.
One of my favorite misdirects in the film, being the only one, I suppose, was the hanger. The dude that shows up in the tent when she's a prisoner in the encampment.
Hello, Floorline.
Yo, she got the dress on, right? And the dude comes in, takes the jacket off, and he pulls like, I was like, did he just pull nunchucks out?
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, nunchucks. And then I was like, ball and gag? Like, because he just like kept like morphing, and then he's like, I'm like, clothes hanger.
Yeah,
I was
like where is he going with this?
Yeah, I was like, okay, word. I need one of them shits. Those are kind of slick.
Yeah, it's dope.
Yo, going based off of what you said, I think it's funny because Spielberg did Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
So like
he likes archaeology.
The two, one hell of a resume.
The two like
Spielberg
from my childhood, the two most like memorable like archaeology things is like Indiana Jones and then like Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny because I'm pretty sure like in Jurassic Park the archaeology isn't sexy idea. Like I'm pretty sure that's what's said at the beginning of Jurassic Park. Is it not? Like
I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I feel like the archaeologist, what's his name?
Sam O'Neill.
Yeah, Sam O'Neill. I'm pretty sure at the beginning of it, he's like talking to a kid. He's like talking about how archaeology is like not what he thinks it is. So it's almost funny that like Steven Spielberg.
That's
like,
very funny.
Yeah, you know, like
he's like, I gotta check myself, walk it back a little bit. Yeah,
it's like, no, actually, this is what archaeology is. We dig this shit out, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Spielberg, goddamn it.
Yeah, that's just awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
One thing that I was thinking of while I was watching it, being that yet again Harrison Ford is such a savage and a pimp, is like our generation doesn't have that, man's man icon. Like you had like Harrison Ford, Sean Connery before that, and then you put them both in the movie, which is the movie. And like I'm not a fan, but like Bruce Willis, even like these dudes are like men, and like there's no one.
We had like The Rock.
I knew you were gonna say that, and no, it's not the same.
I don't feel that way about it.
But that's not the same.
That's actually really interesting. Yeah, I didn't really think about that.
We don't got any.
Huh. I would think maybe my first thought would be either Chris Pratt or Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
I would say Robert Downey Jr. could be the closest thing, but I even feel like that's sort of falling out of right now. Like I feel like that his was like early to mid 2000s. But like in fucking Iron Man, like the first one that we were just talking about, he's just fucking awesome.
But he's like 50 in that film, isn't he? Like in the first
but even I think where he separates, like, and Indiana Jones is like that epitome of like a man's man, right? Like
for sure.
Robert Downey Jr. is more, he's a little feminine and like, but he swags the shit out of
Absolutely.
that. But he's not that like rough around the edges.
Yeah,
guy, you know.
I think you were right in saying Chris Pratt. He's like the new age because like superheroes are like the new Indiana Jones type representation, and they're kind of he's facetious, and it's funny, but he's like yoked and dope and like
he's had
a man's man, but like he like a nice guy. Where like some of these other guys are a little more edgy, but Chris Pratt's maybe the closest thing that I can think.
Pratt,
that's probably I'll take that too because he's dope.
I also feel like something to add to that is it could be a time thing. Like it may need to be a little bit of time since the actor has made the movie before they become that icon. Because like obviously when Indiana Jones came out, he was just top of his fucking game. Right. But I wasn't alive during that. I don't remember it. You know, like was he viewed with the same? Whoa, Jesus!
Did you just fart?
What is it fucking? We're on like disturbances today. I'm pissed.
Damn, yeah. Dude, we're talking about fucking aliens sometimes.
I know. It done fuck my shit up.
Yeah,
just ignore this shit. Keep it rolling.
Okay.
I don't know what the shit's going on right now.
Yeah, so like, you know, with time, things become kind of glorified. And now Indy is like, okay, he's like fucking reached the peak of it. Never tarnished other than, you know, the fourth movie. But it's like, that is like, you know, A game shit. So it's like, will Iron Man be viewed like that 10 years from now? You know, people are doing a podcast 10, 20, 30 years from now. Will people be like Robert Downey Jr. was the Harrison Ford of his time?
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know? Yeah, so like maybe with time it'll age it. Also Daniel Craig to throw a name in the hat. He's pretty fucking dope.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, he's cool.
It's like I almost need to like call my mom and be like, hey mom, like when Indiana Jones came out,
for sure.
Was he like everybody's like love interest?
Yeah, was he sexy then too or just now? Like
when was he sexy? Okay.
So what's your take on the Ark of the Covenant? Like overall, like do you have a take? Like is it just what?
I think that
it's not like actually a thing. Like is there like literature that talk about
know. Well, again, I am not a biblical archaeologist, but from what I know, I mean, most legends have basis in reality. One that comes to mind is there is a flood myth from the Pacific Northwest, from one of the indigenous groups there, who I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, no, it was multiple groups. Multiple groups had a myth about a giant flood, like a huge wave which washed over the countryside and, you know, wiped a bunch of people out. And in one of those stories, it was a eagle spirit that, you know, dropped the whale spirit into the ocean, and it made a really big splash and wiped everything out. And people were like, oh, great, you know, it's folklore, it's knowledge, it's, you know, just sort of a thing that really doesn't mean much. Time goes on, and it is found in the geologic record that there had been a slip of the San Andreas Fault, and it had caused a massive tsunami that hit the coast. Now, these people obviously didn't know what fault lines were at the time. This is a very like recent discovery, but that myth explained what had happened. And that myth had perpetuated even till now, meaning that we have a verbal record of something that happened way before contact, you know, with, you know, Columbus and all that. So when we talk about things like the Lost Ark, do I think that it has the power that if you open it up, it will melt everyone's faces?
Definitely.
Probably not.
Oh, shit. I'm average. I just thought that's where you're going with it. That's where you're going with it.
So, you know, I don't think it's impossible that there is something that could in some way have become the story of the Lost Ark. I think it's very likely, you know?
Okay, speaking of arcs, what's your take on Noah's Ark? Because like they haven't, it's archaeology based. We're like, where the fuck is it? It's a big fucking boat.
Big boat.
Where'd that go?
So Noah's Ark, I firmly believe, is just a myth. I don't think there was any global flood that wiped out all life on Earth. What we know now, I mean, I don't know how the world would have been repopulated from a handful of people and two of each animal. Everything would get inbred to shit and die, you know? So, and obviously that gets into a whole theological thing. But as far as that story in and of itself, I don't think that really happened. What I do think is it's very likely that that could have been based on a story of someone who had a farm, massive flood, saved all his animals by putting them on a boat. You know, like that seems like a pretty reasonable way for that to start. You know,
Right,
and then so there very well could have been a Noah somewhere, a cattle farmer. He puts all his shit on a fucking boat, and people are like, that is fucking dope. They tell stories
Can we
about
come
it.
on your ark? And
Yeah,
he's like,
he's
nah,
like,
bitch,
nah.
I gotta get the goats on here too.
Absolutely not. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so because I know you have if we didn't already touch on it, we'll touch on it and plug it at the end. But Milo got the TikTok game, and I know you have a segment. You do talk about some of the things I'm talking about, like Atlantis and
For sure.
pyramids and Noah's Ark, which I did listen to them. They're dope. But moving on to the next one, I was going to ask you about is like pyramids, and we touched briefly on the aliens. Don't fuck up the microphones, aliens.
Yeah, please. Not again.
But yeah, like, what's your speculation? It is kind of curious.
On the pyramids?
Yeah, just like your take on that.
One thing that I think is difficult to kind of put into perspective from where we live now, in the world we live in now, where, you work a job and you go to the grocery store and you commute to and from work. At the time when the pyramids were built, that was like the project. Like, you could afford to put all of your manpower into making that. So when we view it, it's like, how would you employ those people and taxes?
Slaves,
and they don't have
right?
all that. A lot of them were very highly trained craftsmen. There was a lot of slavery in ancient Egypt. But as far as the pyramid, to make something that perfect, the people had to know their shit. And it was a huge operation. So some of the stone was taken down the Nile River, and there's recently been some evidence to suggest that the blocks were almost moved fully into place by flooding areas of the desert around the pyramids and floating the blocks. So they would put these giant floatable, buoyant things on them, which makes, you can see a cargo ship, which would probably, I can't imagine how much those things weigh, but they float on water if you have enough buoyancy.
Easier to dig one trench than move 1,000 blocks.
Exactly. So they would float them almost to where they need to be and then drag them in to place. So we don't know exactly how they built it. Anyone who tells you that they have 100% proof is probably wrong. There's a lot of very good working theories about how they built it. But the biggest thing to remember about it is they exist. You look at them and you're like, that is there. So one way or another, they did build them. Like when you look at it, it's not like, well, I don't know how they did it, so it must be aliens. You're like, it is right there. It has all of the words on it from, people who built it. And there's, quarries for the stone right next to it and stuff like that. So it's like they built it somehow. We don't know exactly how, but they did do it, which is just mind-blowing to think of. And I hope someday we are able to find the exact, answer there.
Yeah.
What's funny is, I think that the whole ancient aliens thing, right? This is the funny thing, you were gonna do a whole series on ancient aliens on YouTube.
I was. Yeah.
That's out the window now? You just can't waste your time
I want to. At the time when I announced it, I was dealing with a whole bunch of shit at school. I was like, man, I can barely find fucking time for myself. I need to take a load off. But I do want to do that.
Because your YouTube is the shit, because you do more of a long form stuff. Like, your TikTok's fun. Like, I can enjoy just sitting on TikTok and just living. But if you want to just kick back and kind of take in a whole subject, your
YouTube's where it's at.
Your YouTube is where it's at. But yeah, I mean, the funny thing about Ancient Aliens to me is that even just not just Ancient Aliens the TV show, but also just any kind of conspiracy theory based on aliens creating pyramids all over the world, or Stonehenge, whatever the case is. I always just think they shoot themselves in the foot a lot of times by using stuff like you've talked about those little figurines that are clearly birds that people are saying are fighter planes.
Yep.
Doing stuff like that and honing in and focusing on something so stupid like that, you disprove so much of the other stuff you say that maybe could hold a little bit more weight by focusing on things that are clearly not what you're saying they are, and then saying it. The Bigfoot is a perfect example. Finding Bigfoot does that all the time. They'll hear a branch in the woods and they'll be like, that's definitely Bigfoot. No matter what, that was Squatch. And I'm like
Squatch.
Just because you said that, now if you actually found him, I would not believe you. Because you say everything else is Squatch,
I like how it's on a nickname basis. It's like, that's Squatch.
We're past first name basis. We're on a nickname basis. Squatch go way back.
So that's my whole thing. It's just don't. If you focus too much on things that are clearly not what you say they are, but you're saying as if it's proven facts that they are based off aliens, right?
Yeah.
And aliens are the ones who did it. You kind of discredit everything else you're saying, even if there is legitimacy behind it in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. By making it too specific, it becomes almost like a self debunk. It really is. And that's one of the things I've talked about a good bit in my videos is like one of the most recent ones I did on the Dendera light, a carving that people say is a light bulb. If that carving was a light bulb, why the fuck is there no light bulb anywhere? Do you think they just made it once, made 4 carvings of it in the entire world, and then we're just like, oh, that was a good idea. Let's never do that again. Like the fuck? Right. Like with the fighter jets and shit, where they're like, oh yeah, they made gold figures. Not to mention the fact they are not fighter jets, and there was tons of other ones that don't look anything like them. They're all birds. Artistic animals and stuff. But it's like, why would the only evidence of an entire fighter jet be a little statue of a fighter jet?
Right. That
like, show me the fucking runway. Yeah. Show me like, the burnt rubber. Show me the fuselage of a fighter jet.
Right. And like, they didn't even have glass, did they? Like, they didn't even learn how to make glass.
Yeah, not to the extent that we have. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
No,
so,
like,
and I think some of that was supposed to be like, and again, I don't even know what they mean by it, but I assume they mean like, oh, aliens brought them. But like, why the fuck would aliens need fighter jets?
Yeah, bitches.
Yeah, bitches. God
they gotta travel and get the
Dude,
bitches.
You're debunking me, God damn it. Jesus.
Facts.
Man.
Bitches in chains. Fuck. Gold chains.
Yeah, gold chains and bitches.
Yeah, like for real though, like even if they brought down a light bulb, they're like, yo, the aliens are like, yo, like beep boop, beep boop,
Wait, how did this shit out?
Light bulb. You know what I mean? And like the Egyptians are like, oh word, like this is a fucking light bulb. Like word up. And they're like, all right, dude, peace out. 200 years.
Yeah.
These are unaverage people.
I'm going on 200
years. They
years.
sound uneducated.
Yeah. I just traveled 200 years to drop you off a light bulb.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Yeah, that's
Where
the other
bitches?
thing. I mean, that also goes to the whole like the NASA thing of being like, why would they lie about the Earth being round? Why the fuck would aliens show up and be like, I'm gonna make 3 pyramids there and then I'm gonna leave?
Yeah.
Well, they obviously had advantages too. That was their summer.
Okay, honestly, valid. Yeah, that's
summer
fair.
home.
I heard a theory on TikTok, and obviously it's probably bullshit, but I heard a theory on TikTok just about like how like I guess like these however you travel interdimensionally as an alien, right? However that process happens.
I'll tell you about it later.
You need to be refueled, right? And I guess the refueling goes based off of like energy from planetary something, like I don't know, like
molten lava.
Magnet.
It's molten lava.
Magnet
bitches.
Something. Yeah, bitches.
Yeah.
Bitches and gold chains.
Some kind of.
That's how you recharge. You gotta buy some, splurge on some chains and get some bitches, then you're
ready to go.
Exactly.
Yo.
No, but like, yeah, I guess they said that like the pyramids were part of like a navigation system to help them with getting some kind of refueling station when they come into our solar system to be able to then interdimensionally travel to their locations. I'm just like, dude, like,
did they not have fucking GPS?
No, all I think of is like, yeah, right.
Like, you need to build a fucking pyramid to know where you are. You just traveled 200 light years.
They need towers.
Yeah, valid.
What the fuck? They need Wi-Fi.
Or it's like most of these people that make up these theories or however they come up with them, I'm just like, you should make a movie. Like that, you have an amazing,
yeah,
like sense of creativity and imagination. Like make a script. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I mean that's another great point. Is like all this shit is. We were talking about this before we started the stream. Like it's so fun to talk about. Like so many people, like a misconception people have when they watch my videos is it's like, oh, you're just a hater. I know I said this to you guys outside, but it's like no, like I think ancient aliens theories are really fun. It's just when people start passing them off as fact, then it's like, okay, well now I have a problem with that because now it's misinformation. Right. But like, it's fucking fun to sit and talk about aliens. We've been talking, you're sitting about aliens for the last fucking hour, you know? So it's like, yeah, like if you get someone who's super creative and they're like, yeah, the aliens, they need fueling stations and they're going to build pyramids to do it. Like, that's dope. Make a fucking movie about it. Yeah, really.
I love how in your videos that you call people out on inaccuracies and, any drawbacks of some sort of conspiracy theory that they're trying to lay out, and then you shit on them and you throw like hella shade, like you'll put their account up, like, and I'm like, oh, he's throwing some smoke out. And I wonder, do you get any shade back when you blow smoke like that?
Yeah, so I definitely sometimes do. I had one recently. I had a flat Earth person who definitely tried to clap back the chick. Yeah,
she was like, you see on a ball when water rolls off a ball,
and then
I was like, this bitch gravity, what's good with it?
She also started by being like, she was like, and I'm not gonna have to throw insults in order to say my thing. And I'm like, you know what? I respect someone who can uphold the high bar, but I'm like, have some fun with me. Come on. If you're gonna come back, just you can have some sort of funny roast.
Don't take it so personally.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a little light with this.
If anything, you did her a favor.
It was
shout her out,
a boost.
bro.
Yeah, exactly. Now the whole like I don't know that whole series though, or with that particular young woman, she was talking later in one of her videos, and she was like, this is all. I can't remember what she said. I think she said like all of these terms are things which are just meant to confuse you. I don't know if you guys like watched that video, but that got me thinking, and I was like, this is really sad, and I don't want to go on with it anymore because I was like, this person clearly just had a really bad experience with like a science teacher, and that's something which I come across a lot. Is like a lot of these people are conspiracy theorists, and they just distrust everything. Like they felt so shitty in their schooling experience that they're like, everything these people are saying to me is a lie, and like that's really sad. And like it's fine to sit there and I open my video called her Jersey Shore. It's a cheap fucking blow, it really is. But it's like I feel it gets a chuckle, but it's like it feels shitty to keep doing it when I'm like, this person like genuinely was so traumatized by whatever childhood educational experience. And like and
That's how I am with math. So
valid. I fucking hate math. I hate it. It was awful. Chemistry also. Don't even get me started on that shit. So like that's something that I also notice a lot is a lot of the people who believe in these conspiracy theories are people who like they just distrust everything around them. If you find someone who believes in one conspiracy, it is more than likely that they believe in almost all of them. Than for you, like it's more likely for you to find someone that believes in every conspiracy than just one.
Right.
Like if I asked you one, I'm sure you could think of one that you sort of believe in, but you're not a conspiracy theorist.
No.
Most people who are, they believe in a whole bunch of shit because they are lying to you, whether it be NASA or their 5th grade science teacher.
I definitely like to check shit out, and I'll be like, that's curious.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Moving on. What's next?
I think there's definitely a big difference between having an open mind, like it just being like, hey, like I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm cool to listen to people say things that maybe is something along the lines of something I don't understand or I don't know, and listen to it and see if they have more knowledge than I do and take in some of that knowledge. But like to then flip flop on that and not just be open minded to things you don't understand, but then to fully believe things that have less credibility, just more, I guess, emotion and compassion behind them, and then disprove everything that's been proven already just because you don't trust it. I think is kind of an absurd way of thinking, right?
Well said.
It doesn't really make sense
But I think what Miles was saying is there was a maybe traumatic or just really poor experience with education with science teachers, because we all know science teachers can be a little off-putting. So I connect with that. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of people. And same with math teachers. It's like, this is kind of challenging and obscure. I want to go to lunch or something. I don't want to hear about the periodic table or whatever. And then, they start resenting. And as they get older, they have less checks and balances on their ideas and ideologies. So they'll go off and go on YouTube and find a bunch of unfortunate like-minded people to validate their shitty ideas. So science teachers need to step it the fuck up.
That's completely true.
Okay, good.
It is. It's completely true. And I've got some people being like, I've had a couple people who are teachers who responded to that video, and they're like, but like it's not always a teacher. It's like, sometimes you have a student that just sucks. And I'm like,
fair.
Fair. I'm sure average students. I'm like, fair. Sometimes you may get a student who just doesn't give a shit, but also it is your job as a teacher to make them feel as included and as loved and as supported as possible.
You're not there just to make the people who are good at it better.
Absolutely. Very good point. If anything, if you have a shitty student, give that student extra time, because you could be the difference between them going on to foster a passion they really care about and them going on to spout fucking that shit on the internet, So like, it is the job as a teacher, even if it's a little extra work, to work with a pain in the ass student, 100%. You got to do it.
And I think also a good teaching method too is like having other students that are good at shit help the dumber ones. Because I think one of the levels or the phases of learning is to teach it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
So, like, I think that would be the method as a teacher. Like, okay, you have a class, say, I know classroom sizes range. So you have 30 kids in the classroom. 10 of them know what the fuck's good with it. Well, I can work with these 10, and the other 10, you guys partner up, and I'll cycle around or whatever. And kind of bring people to catch up with it, because it's really does more harm than good, I think, long term. Like, we're seeing people out here are really just running rampant with stupidity. Like, if I'm speaking candidly, it's unfortunate. There is bad parenting, bad teaching, and just like bad support system, unfortunately. And can't always get the dub with people, but it's like, I think there's definitely, like, I've always say bad parenting and bad like teaching in school systems is definitely like a bad proponent that is a huge detriment and we are seeing some of that
Yeah.
right now, in my opinion.
I want to shout you out big time though,
Yeah.
because you hear a lot of people go to school for something that they're passionate about. Archaeology is an example of it, or
Yep.
like you go to school for like art or something, whatever the case is, right? And you have this huge passion for it, but you end up not being able to find any kind of actual career in that, so you just
Yeah.
end up teaching, right?
Yeah.
But like, I fuck with the fact that like you're a modern day archaeologist that's probably going to do stuff in the field eventually, right?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
also, you're not just like, I'm just going to go teach it. You're
Yeah.
like, no, like I'm going to make a fucking like online catalog of my career and something I'm passionate about, and make a career out of that instead of just going back into the education system.
Yeah.
Like I fuck with that.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, and that's something which I really try and do with my videos, is something that's always really frustrated me, if we're kind of talking about education and passion here, is education in this country currently is locked behind a paywall. You have to be rich in order to become educated. Yes, you can do all this research online, but you can't go to college unless you get a really good sponsorship or scholarship, or you can afford to go there.
Right.
And that will just naturally bottleneck people who can afford to go to college to be able to be the ones who are educated. So you have people who, by not their choice, grew up with not a lot of money, who are not able to go, and they are not able to learn. And that has nothing to do with, there could be someone sitting right now somewhere who is equally as passionate about any of the things we love, and they just didn't have the money to be able to learn it.
Right.
YouTube is free. TikTok is free. One of the things that frustrates me so much that I saw the other day is one of my fellow archaeology YouTubers. He is a professor, but he was doing some debunking thing, and the person who he was talking to was also very highly academic and told him that if he wanted to argue with him, he should publish a paper on it. I fucking hate that, because I've had to read a lot of papers in my day. When was the last time either of you were like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in something, so I'm going to look up a fucking paper on it?
Never.
Never.
Unless I was
Fucking
forced to
never.
in college.
Not unless you were forced to in college, rightfully, because they're boring as sin, and I don't want to go out of my way to do that.
Correct.
And you have to, like, I took classes on learning how to read those papers,
Yep.
which you had to pay for. So it's like, why the fuck would I spend all this time publishing a paper which costs money, takes months and months and months, so that like 10 people will read it?
Right. And
It won't make a drop in the ocean.
But like the education system right now is fucked.
Oh, it's beyond
absolutely
fucked.
fucked. Like,
Yeah.
because even if you don't have the money to go, but you figure it out, you end up walking out with $100,000 in debt.
Exactly.
That you're tied to for the rest of your
Yeah.
fucking life. Over what? Like, especially because 2 of the years that you go to school, you learn the same shit that you learned in high school. It's like, what are you there for?
Yeah.
Like, and you know it's just because it's a money game
It is.
all around.
It is.
The only way they can fund their new upgrades and all of their shit that they do, all their schools all the time, is just so they get more people, more young people to go into debt. You know what I'm saying? And like my whole mentality, the only reason I went to school was to play football, right? Like that's
For
why
sure.
I went
Yeah,
to
yeah,
school.
yeah.
You know, I studied communication, right?
There you
that
go,
was my-
communication major.
Yeah, I graduated with a 3.9 GPA. Okay?
Hype, dude.
Yeah, boy.
Wow.
No, anyway, but yeah, so like the only reason I went to school for that, but my mentality now, especially since I left school, and especially because of everything I learned in school, like the amount of stuff I learned in actual classrooms is a lot less than the stuff I learned just from being away from home and being in my own environment and being out amongst people my age. Like I learned a lot more from that experience. But nonetheless, it's like school isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like you're an 18-year-old kid, you graduate high school.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of other things you can do and experience in your life before you have to dive into going to $100,000 of debt just because everybody's telling you that's what you should do, unless I think you have a passion of something that you know that you want to do, that there's an actual degree for.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is that I feel like people just get funneled into college and debt and expenses or whatever the case is when they have no idea what they want to do. Oh, you'll figure it out when you're in school. Okay, so I'm going to go spend $25,000
To
a year
figure it
to
out?
figure out what I'm doing with my life? Like, I'm pretty sure I could do that other ways. That doesn't cost me $25,000 a year.
You can, but then you're getting out of their system.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's like-
and you don't want to do that because they need their money.
They need their money. They want to put their ideologies onto people.
Yeah.
And because if they can do that, then like their kids will go to school because they got. So it's a unfortunate system, but we don't need to get into that facet. But you mentioned that Milo like didn't go back into teaching in his field, but he is teaching on the internet.
It's a different way.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
He
want
is
people to
teaching.
have to pay to fucking learn. You know, like that's just so
fuck with that.
beyond fucked.
Yeah,
I
make
really
YouTube
can't
pay
even.
for you.
Yeah, really, exactly. And like, you have like patrons and people will like donate and shit. And I'm like, I really appreciate that. I'll take it if you're willing to like offer it because I need to eat too. But it's like, why the fuck would you need to pay to learn about shit you're interested in? It's just dumb. It's just fucking dumb. You know?
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not against someone paying to learn as long as it's like reasonable and it's
Exactly.
applicable. Like, if college consisted of like, okay, it's like say 50 grand, like it was a flat rate or something for like 2 years or something. And it comes like room and board if you wanted it, like food, and you get your like education and something it's applicable. Like you're doing the thing that you're going for 2 years. So it's like 25 it's 25 grand a year, but like at the end of 2 years you're locked and loaded. Everything's very applicable and like specific to your field. I wouldn't be against that, but the notion of 4 years and 2 years is like general studies. Like you're not even doing archaeology the first 2 years.
No, that's a great point. Because so much of my time, or anyone's time in college, is spent with fucking gen eds. I really can't wrap my head around
gen
that.
eds?
Like a general education. So it's like, you take your fucking, I had to take 2 years of 2 classes of chemistry. I had to take a whole bunch of different math classes. To be fair, chemistry has some applications, but I still hate it. Like math classes and all of this just shit that was like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't need to take trigonometry to be an archaeologist. The actual classes that I have, applied and cared about and stuff, whether it be from my environmental science degree or from my archaeology degree, I could have put into 2 years, just like you said.
Absolutely.
And if there was a flat rate for it that included food, board, or a fucking parking pass, don't even get me started on that shit. Not included. It's fucking crazy. Then it's like, okay, there's a flat rate. Fair enough.
And it comes with the books too. The books
comes with the books. You have to buy fucking,
you got to pay motherfuckers, but like I dropped out twice of community college, so I'm super average.
I was just about to say average guy.
Is that above average? Because I dropped out twice though. I think it's above average.
I think you have upgraded. You're above average.
Yeah, I'm like
sure.
I'm above average.
Good for you, man. Good
Thank
for you.
Motherfucker. Yeah, so fuck with you, boy.
It's my above average man.
The only reason I didn't get a 4.0 in college.
Oh, here
is
we
because
fucking go.
I got a B- in fucking math my sophomore year.
Damn.
Like fuck math.
Oh, math sucks. It's just a fucking bitch.
Eat my ass.
Yeah.
Dude.
Wow, that's aggressive.
I fucking hate it. The fact I had to take that in college for a communication major is ridiculous.
Yeah, really.
In order to communicate with people, you definitely need to learn how to do
That'll
math.
make people run fast. Yeah.
Yeah, you suck on that. What is your favorite conspiracy theory that you've come across? You're like,
favorite. That's a great question.
Like, I wanted this to be real. Like,
Okay, I actually do have one. I've got this as a question a lot, and I've never actually
really?
answered it publicly. So I'm very glad to have a
great.
forum to speak
At the movie
You
Rant
heard it
break,
here
motherfuckers.
first. Yeah,
you heard
Plug,
it first.
plug,
At
plug.
the movie Rant break, we got Milo, aka Miniminuteman. Fucks with your boy.
Drop in the fucking first conspiracy I believe in. All right.
All right, let's do it. Oh, you believe in it?
Well, I would say it's one of those ones that I can't prove is wrong. But I think it's very interesting.
Okay, I'm ready.
I think it is possible that at some point throughout Earth's history, there has been another sentient species like us. At some point. Because it has been, Earth's history is so fucking old that we wouldn't have any evidence of it left over. The longest lasting things that humanity has built. Actually, here's an interesting question. What do you think, if humanity disappeared off the face of the Earth today, what would be the last things left as a testament to us being on Earth?
It'd probably be the stuff that was built already, like in the past. Like,
Do you have any like particular?
the pyramids or something?
Okay.
Like as opposed to like everything we build now, I feel like would fall apart. Really
I feel like
That's a
the
very interesting
cities,
answer.
I guess.
So New York City would be gone in about 300 years. Everything would just collapse, be covered, be gone. The Great Pyramids of Giza and Mount Rushmore would be the two final remaining things of
That's
us.
what I thought, 'cause they're made out of rocks.
Yeah, they're made out of rocks. They are already in the form that they naturally want to be in, so they don't really decompose too much more.
Right.
Whereas metal, it'll oxidize, fall apart. This house would be gone in 200
Plus, there's not
years.
a lot of water in
that's
Egypt, so it's not like there's gonna be corroding.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. So
Corrosion.
New York would eventually just turn to dust.
My
But in
answer
Egypt,
fucking sucked. That was so average of me to say cities.
well, yeah.
It's funny, like Mount Rushmore, you're saying like the two things would be the pyramids and Mount Rushmore. So like the four faces, you got like what, Abe Lincoln, Washington, who's the
Dude, imagine, dude, if there was a
oh my
simulation that
God.
lasted, they would see that and they'd be like, God,
like, who are these motherfuckers?
Yo,
Also, I
they would think those are gods.
Yeah,
They would
really.
be
I
like,
know. If
we
nothing
have
else
four
is
gods.
left,
They'd have four gods.
So,
interesting. Because that would be like a thing that
it is a beautiful piece of irony that the two oldest things are going to be like to this day, like one of the, like, he loves that. Like, yo, this mountain's got a fucking face on it.
There's 4 faces, like our 4-faced God.
Holy shit. Yeah, so I do think it's very funny that the two things which are going to last the longest are like the pyramids, which we all learn about in history, and then like just Mount Rushmore is just an eye-rolling thing in itself. Just how awful that whole thing was. But either way, those would be the last things left of ours. So if there was a species in the past with a similar amount of cognitive ability, we would have literally no evidence of it. Like, where would it be, you know? And like, maybe there is something that we could make. I'm even thinking plastics, but plastics decompose just very slowly. Right. But like, if there was something that lived alongside the dinosaurs like millions of years ago, we probably would have no evidence that it ever existed. Right. So it's less a conspiracy to say, I have all this evidence. It's more saying, I have no evidence, and therefore I don't know. It's like, very possible.
So what do you think? Were they like humans or were they like different species?
It's hard to say. I think that it probably would have been, depending on when they arose. I mean, at the time of the dinosaurs, the Earth was, you know, infinitely hotter. There was giant reptiles everywhere. So it's likely that it could have been the reptilians. You know, so but, you know, it could have been something. And I'm not saying they were exactly, you know, they were bipedal with thumbs and really big brains. But, you know, something that was able to build and construct and develop and have belief and civilization and life and all of that, you know, because we wouldn't know today.
Yeah, because essentially what you're saying is if they weren't using stone, there would be no way to confirm whether or not they were here at whatever time.
Yeah, and
they
even
would have been gone.
If hypothetically, even if they were using stone and had stone tools and things like that, those would have been, I mean, the continents have split apart since that time span.
Oh, you believe in Pangea?
There
Pangea is like for real?
Pangea is for real, yes.
That's real.
Yeah, continental, well, I guess sort of continental drift. Yeah, plate tectonics.
See, that's another one of those. I'm like, maybe? Like, yeah. I'm average.
So
like.
if you, yeah. So the reason why they're able to give that some amount of validity is because there are, if you were to go to the coast of, actually in Islesboro, if you were to go to Islesboro, my girlfriend was talking about this, there's, you know, like these stones, which are very, they're like some of the oldest stones in Maine. Their sister stones are in Europe, because they were once connected. If you look at the Appalachian mountain range, once one of the largest mountain ranges on Earth, it would have rivaled the Himalayas. The mountains that are in Appalachia and the Scottish Highlands are part of the same mountain range. It just broke apart and is weathered down.
I have, like, joking aside, I've heard these type of validations with it, where like the same type of stones or like rare, uncanny similarities between like Maine and say a place over in Europe, like they're like sister and brother locations. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll go with that. Like,
and you can even see it on a map, like the way that like the top part of Africa would fit perfectly into above South America. Like it looks like a big puzzle piece, you know?
Pangea is cool. I'm not
it's pretty dope.
Anti-Pangea. Like,
I'm glad.
No, I just like,
thank God I would have left.
That's a
I believe in Pangea.
Anti-Pangea. I like that.
Don't
start Pangea.
Yeah. Okay. So most hated conspiracy?
Most hated conspiracy.
Is it flat Earth?
Honestly, probably not. I think my most hated ones are probably, I would have to go with ancient aliens, just because they are so, I mean, there's a lot of them, but they are so frequently talked about, and so many people spout them without realizing the fact that they were literally started by Nazis and are still like so inherently racist. I mean, every single one revolves around a civilization that wasn't in Europe and being like, well, how could they have done that? It was impossible for them. It must have been aliens. Like, how fucked up is that? No one is like, oh, the Parthenon or something like that, like some beautiful construction from the Mediterranean and like where white people are from. It's like, oh yeah, that must have been aliens building that. No, it's like the pyramids or like Machu Picchu. It's like, why the fuck would the people who built Machu Picchu be any less civilized or developed than the people in Rome? They just had a different way of doing it, right? You know, so like,
I think South America, especially, like I feel like South America was crazy.
Yeah,
I feel like they were way more advanced than we like modernly give them credit for.
Agreed. Machu Picchu is sick.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just did some insane shit, and it was like, you know, just the fact that they weren't, you know, part of Rome or like whatever other things there were. Like they just assumed that it had to be aliens.
Yeah, and they weren't even beat out because of war. Like all those civilizations died because of disease.
Yeah,
Like,
they
them
were
motherfuckers were gangster.
crippled. Yeah.
Those motherfuckers were gangster. Like if it came
Savages.
they came down to war, bro. If it came down
Yeah.
to war, those motherfuckers probably would have won. They would have beat the shit out of the white motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you can't beat disease. That shit is unseeable.
I know. I've thought a lot about what the world would have been like if, when Europeans arrived, they were introduced to a disease that they couldn't handle.
Exactly the other way around.
Like, how easy would it have been for it to just be some other pathogen that worked a little bit faster?
But I think that just
you
gives
know?
credit. Honestly, I think that just gives credit to like the living conditions
Yeah.
of Europe versus the living conditions of here, because like the South American living conditions were so much more clean and so much more like taken care of.
Yeah.
That they didn't deal with the diseases that these European like places had because of the disgusting living conditions they had.
Yeah, like the cities that they were in were just filthy. Like there are like firsthand accounts of like American Indians talking about how like just disgusting the people were because they didn't bathe.
Right.
Like they didn't have the accessibility, affordability to bathe in clean water because they all lived in cities where you dump your shit in the same water you bathe and drink in.
Right.
It's like
the funny thing is because we're talking about a specific civilization. There's white civilizations that had that down pat.
Oh my God,
ancient Greece and shit. Like they like with all
they had
like
fucking plumbing and shit.
You know what I'm saying? There was some crazy, clean, nice European countries too, and civilizations. It's just like at that time, the European countries, and especially past the Middle Ages and like all those, like the Dark Ages, what are they called? Whatever.
Yeah.
He's the guy that.
yeah.
Like during all that time period, like the worlds they were living in were fucking not good.
Yeah.
And they came over here and brought all that not goodness to like a pristine world that was like super advanced.
Yeah.
Cleanliness.
Yeah.
Or not goodness.
Not goodness.
And the
You're sounding more average as this, if I'm being candid.
God
like,
damn it.
I think that he's exposed.
yeah, and
He's the
as someone
average
who
one.
is above average,
Yeah,
apparently,
his averageness was radiating so much.
it's passing around. Yeah.
Yeah, wanna.
Yeah.
Word, like, what's is the biggest archaeology mystery for you? Is like the whole possibility of sentient beings being potentially here before, like with the dinosaurs? Is that what you would say?
So
or?
I would say that would probably be something that, if ever proven, I mean, it would be groundbreaking. That would be so fucking cool. As far as the biggest like archaeological mystery, I don't know what the biggest one is, but I can subjectively say what the biggest one is. My dream is to somehow, someday, be able to be connected to the discovery of the Hanging Gardens, which is the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world that we have no proof ever actually existed. So all of the other ones we have evidence of.
What is this?
The Hanging Gardens in Babylon. They were a massive.
It's supposed to be the Garden of Eden.
It was. I think
I think that was portrayed in Eternals, wasn't it? I think it was.
I don't know. We don't even bring up Marvel.
The Garden of Eden is like biblical, but I guess it goes to like a whole kind of spirituality surrounding a lush green place.
Well, I'm saying that like they have said, like I think specifically people that are into the theology of the Garden of Eden, saying that the Hanging Gardens in Babylon was like
interesting.
I thought I've heard that. Like
I wouldn't be surprised.
As a slightly above average person, I don't think I could make that up. But I'm pretty sure that's like what they're like. Yeah, that's been I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. Yeah.
That's what
But I mean, they found all the other ones, the lighthouse at Alexandria and the Great Pyramids of Giza and all of the other ones we know existed. But the Hanging Gardens is the only one that doesn't, and it would be enormous. It was apparently just like a massive, almost stepped pyramid structure that had flowing water. It had aviaries in it with birds from all over the world. It had like flowers, and it was upkept by, I believe, the king as like a place for his wife to go. And it was like, bitches, exactly. He gets it. And so, he
had a lot of gold.
It's like, exactly. And so that would be really interesting to find because there are accounts of it. Apparently, when Alexander the Great died, he died within view of the Hanging Gardens.
I wonder if there's a map. There's a map.
I wonder if there's a map.
I was going to ask you, like, if you had to point your finger on a map as to where this would be, like,
it was in the city of Babylon, supposedly. So, I mean, they've done archaeological excavations finding like the whole city, and they have not found it. So it's theorized right now that it was in reference to the fact that Babylon had such good irrigation that it was like the gardens of Babylon. Like everything was lush in the desert and they were able to, make life in an arid place. So they think it might be more of like an analogy, very similar to like the whale and eagle tsunami story I told earlier that just has been perpetuated throughout time to become a different version.
Well, what if Babylon is Atlantis? and
shit.
Atlantis is the Garden of Eden. It's all
Look,
one.
you're taking this above average thing, and you're really running with it right now.
I'm trying to impress you and everybody else. Like, I felt kind of belittled.
Step back, okay, bro?
I'm getting too above average right now.
Yeah, the big brain is expanding.
I love it. Dinosaurs, take on it. What's good with it?
Shit's awesome. Fucking love dinosaurs. I'm not a paleontologist, so like I don't know a whole lot about them. But when I was a kid, shit was fucking awesome.
Shout out to Spielberg.
Yeah.
With the dinosaurs, Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I heard something the other day, and it was like talking about like two dinosaurs living, and it was like talking about a T-Rex. It was a Jurassic Park video I was watching. It was a T-Rex and like a Triceratops or something, and they're like, this T-Rex lived closer to human beings than the Triceratops lived to the T-Rex.
Yeah.
That's like in time, we are closer in time to a T-Rex than the T-Rex was to the Triceratops or something. I don't know if the Triceratops is the right one.
The like amount of time that humans have that mammals have dominated the world is like terrifyingly small.
See, that's another one of those things where I'm like, when they do the time of how old something is.
The average is going
Shit,
down.
is my meter like? Is it going down? Listen, the time thing for real. I'll stand by this. Like when someone's like, "This is 88 million years old," I'm just like, "Shut up!" Like I'm sorry.
Yeah, like
we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You're wrong. I'll be average over here and know that I don't think you've confirmed there's this thing is 88 million years old. I don't buy it.
That's another thing that people bring up a lot. Whenever I'm talking about like conspiracies that involve like dating things, a lot of the time there is a huge amount of distrust in dating methods. And the most common one is radiocarbon dating. But I've heard so many people be like, oh, well, if an artifact was found in water, you can't radiocarbon date it, which like it does change it, but we know how it changes it. So you can account for that and, make up the difference. But for things like that, it's obviously a lot more difficult because radiocarbon dating is very standard. You have a natural piece of material and you directly date the material. For things like that, you have to date them using stratigraphy, which is like the rocks around them. And in order to date those rocks, there's all kinds of fucking crazy shit you have to do, whether it's a volcanic rock or whether it's a, metamorphic rock, or if it was an ash deposit, which was laid down by a volcano, you could do that with, I think it's potassium argon dating, which is like created during heat. And you can see how much of the potassium argon has disappeared over time and figure out how old it is. But I mean, it's insane shit. And like genuinely from, for an average person, you've been demoted. For an average person, and myself included, I couldn't like prove to you that I know how to carbon or like date stone. Right, if you gave me a piece of rock and told me to tell you how old it is, I'd tell you to go fuck yourself.
So it's alleged, and I'm right.
Look. Okay, he's running with it.
So like, what's the oldest thing we've ever radiocarbon dated? Because it's only natural things, right? Yeah,
so radiocarbon dating can go back, I think you can accurately date to about 50,000 years ago. So it has a very short, and you're talking about, the dinosaur thing and stuff, like dinosaurs, the Chicxulub asteroid was, the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was like 65 million years ago. And then like they've existed for like up until 300 million years ago or something like that.
Right.
But it's like, that's so much older that you can't do that. There's no carbon left. They're just stone,
And so that was the other thing, like your conspiracy theory with the sentient beings thing. Like, why wouldn't we find fossils of their bodies though?
Well, that's the thing is we may have, but we wouldn't know they were sentient.
Right, because
they're just bones. Yeah.
Gosh.
So unless they were buried with like grave goods and stuff, and we found, ratioly so few dinosaurs. Like it's like there's like 12 great specimens from the whole world of this dinosaur, and it's it's been destroyed over time and worn down.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine how many are out there that have just been undiscovered. So
or there was
not impossible.
Or there was literally like 50 dinosaurs on this planet that aliens just put in one day.
They all just died in one place.
The Atlanteans. The Atlanteans. They raised them as cattle.
Yeah, they were pets. They would ride them into battle. Yeah.
They milked them.
Yo, T-Rex cheese.
They've confirmed.
Amazing.
T-Rex cheese?
Yeah, I'm a T-Rex rancher.
T-Rex cheese, I love it. There's shit my face on the microphone.
That's such a good joke. Shit.
So, reeling it back in, back to Indiana Jones.
Yes. Oh, fuck, I forgot
He's a
about
descendant of Atlantis. Yeah.
Shit.
Which, a fun fact, I just want to hit people with a fun fact.
Lay it on us, dude.
So this film was rated PG as well as The Temple of Doom, which is the first two Indiana Jones films. But it led to the rating of a PG-13 film. So like,
wow,
the first two Indiana Jones films were the reason why the PG-13 rating came to be. because like people were like, "Whoa, this movie's like gruesome and gory for PG," because they do murk like tons of people. It's like blood and like it's kind of like Indiana Jones is like trying to smash bitches and shit, and does. He has a kid with like I think the bitch from this movie. Yeah, he does. But
the whole PG rating is confusing to me anyway. Even PG-13, like I guess PG-13 makes more sense because it's like, oh, parental guidance, but 13 is like kind of like the age it's okay to watch this. But like PG is just like what are parents supposed to just like go watch the movie first and then be like, I'm okay with my kid watching this, and then like go back to the movies again with their kid. Is that like the movie?
I mean, if you're a parent that cares, then maybe. Yeah, interesting. Depending on how much you care about it. Yeah, definitely a violent film.
Oh yeah,
I was actually surprised.
Yeah, no, it's very.
It's like top to bottom. It's like killing, shooting.
Oh yeah,
explode.
The only thing it didn't have is like blatant sex scene, which I thought was coming.
Yeah,
and it didn't come.
Honestly, that's a good point.
It didn't come. That's what you did. So yeah, that was my fun fact. I thought that was interesting.
That's a very fun fact.
So I think it was like
paved the way.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, after 1984 with the Temple of Doom coming out. That I think the third one, The Last Crusade with Sean Connery, it was PG-13, and that's where the whole rating of PG-13 from 84 or so on, and that's where we got that.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, interesting.
But do you guys have anything else to add? Like, by all means, I'm like
That's a good question.
I would say the only other thing that I noticed while rewatching this movie again was the lighting. The lighting is fucking awesome. Like when he opens the ark and it's like glowing on him, and they did the same thing with like the fertility idol with like the yellow glow on his face. Like it's highly dramatic lighting. Nothing's actually giving off light, but it looks so fucking cool. And I noticed the other night I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, and I had somehow never seen Pulp Fiction. And I watched Pulp Fiction for the first time the other night, and they did the same thing with the briefcase. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I haven't seen it.
They open the briefcase. I don't even think they ever say what's in the briefcase. It's just a thing, and it glows whenever it's open. Yeah. And I was like, that's fucking sick. Like, it's just such a great way of portraying, like, it's valuable. Something valuable. It's really neat. Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I'm still, like, confused as to, like, what the fuck the Ark was. Like, they opened it up and it was, like, ghosts or something?
Well, like, what was in it? Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was allegedly, like, it's obviously like, it's like a relic that's, like, a treasure chest of sorts, but I thought they were alluding to the fact that there was like the first tablet of the commandments on it. Yes. I thought that's what was potentially in it. I could be wrong, but I thought that's kind of...
Yeah, they were saying like treasures and shit, but then like I just am so mind blown that they just opened it up and it was just like a Nazi killing ghost machine.
Yeah.
Well, anybody killing machine, I just Nazi.
Yeah. So my thought with it was, and again, I don't know if this is proven, I'm sure people have analyzed it through and through, but it is confirmed in the movie that the chest actually does have magical and, mystical power. Yes. Like, I mean, it kills people and fucking burns shit. So I almost wonder if the tablets were actually gone, or if the tablets just weren't, like, if they took the form of sand because they fell into the wrong hands. Like, it's something that was created by God, which has the power to kill people. Do you think it wouldn't have, like, self-preservation with it, too? Yeah. Like, he wouldn't, put down these tablets and be like, yeah, well, I don't know. If the bad people get it, they'll just fucking kill everyone. Like, no, these people were literally, their whole thing was, like, about to be the annihilation of Jewish people who, like, the commandments were given to in the first place. So I'm sure God was just like, all right, so we're going to just make them look like sand for now, and then we're going to send the ghosts out and fucking...
Right. And you said the statues of the gods in the Egyptian temple. What was this?
Those are Anubis. Yeah.
Okay, so like, does Anubis have any kind of like connection to like why they would be guarding this?
It's a great question. I am not super well versed in Egyptology. I know that Anubis is, I think, the god of the underworld, and so there could be something about that. But it's also worth noting that this temple was where the Ark was stored after it was stolen. So this temple wouldn't have been made in respect of the Jewish god. Of course. It was a Egyptian temple. Yeah. So wherever it was held in...
But maybe like the god of the underworld was guarding it because it wasn't godly. It was actually demons. That was pretty demonic.
That was pretty fucked. Yeah.
I like that.
That's pretty interesting.
It was described as... It was described as
getting
God.
Philosophical out there, yeah.
It's described as God, but like when it opened, that wasn't godly at all. That was like... demonic and dark, so like they're like Anubis will guard this thing.
Interesting.
Keep it in the underworld.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's impossible. Yeah, that's interesting for sure.
You're still average. Average.
He's working on it. A little meters ticking up again.
So on my show, the movie Rant Break, what we do here is we rate the film 1 to 10 to the 10th place. That's the 10.
0.1, 0.2.
You got that?
Yeah, I got
Okay.
it.
All right.
Math.
So, like, that's
Math.
the rating?
Yeah.
Math. Decimals and shit.
Yeah.
No fractions. Just,
Going to algebra, I'm fucked.
so, to the 10th place, 1 to 10. We just give a rating. We all like give a rating. You can go first, being the new guest, if you'd like to give a movie score rating for
This
the
is
film.
your first movie rank break rating.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah, and remember, like, you might review films later in your life on the show, and you know, I usually, the way I do it is like, everything's kind of bundled in, like comedies and action. Like, I just rank them all one thing. Like, I don't.
He doesn't have separate categories.
You know what I mean?
Like,
So,
if
like,
he gives like Dodgeball got a 10 out of 10 for
it's
you.
my favorite comedy. It's a fire ass
Wow,
film. It's like
there
a
you
perfect.
go.
It's a
Okay.
perfect comedy. But like, there could be a film that's really great and it's only getting like an 8, but like that's a good rating for
Okay.
me. And or like, yeah. So just to give you context,
Okay.
I guess.
In that case, I'd probably have to give it between an 8 and an 8.5.
You gotta. It's gotta be.
Oh, it has to be.
It's gotta be
Okay,
concise. It's gotta-
8.3.
Okay.
I feel exactly math. I would say that
8 and
it's
3/10.
Yeah, 8 and 3/10. It's a phenomenal movie. I really can't like fault it for anything. I think the only reason I step it down and don't make it like a 9 or something is because I like some of the other installations in the series more. Like I've alluded to,
Better.
I like the one with Sean Connery more, which doesn't make this one a bad movie. There's just things that one does that this one doesn't that I really enjoy. So I'd probably have to stick with my 8.3. Yeah.
8.3. John Smith, what you hitting it with?
I was gonna give it an 8.5.
Wow.
Nice, nice,
That's a 2,
dude.
Okay.
8.5. That was what I was thinking.
Now I'm gonna hit it with a 7, just because like the film is great. It deserves its praise. Just personally, like for a film that I personally like and like get into, it's not really my style, but definitely respect, salute, love the characters and everything in it. But I'm gonna hit it with a 7 because I do know that I like the third one the best. I haven't seen all of them in a long time, which hopefully maybe we get to.
Yeah,
reviewing
for
them all.
sure. I'd love to do more.
And I know that I gotta reserve. That's what I'm saying when I said,
Yeah.
keep in mind, like if you do other films, because like if I give a 10 to this one, say I really liked it, and then there's like one that comes out later that I really like, to me it's like a disservice to just like put 10s across something that could potentially, like I know that third one I like more, so and it's not a 10, but so.
Like I gave this one an 8.5 because it was the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why it sneaks out. So even if I find like the third one when I do watch it, if I find it better than this, I'm okay with ranking them the same off the strength of not just because the movie's better, but this one also started it. It paved the way
Yeah.
for it,
Facts.
which I think gives it some credibility.
It also looks like, from all of our ratings, you said 7, you said 8.5, and I said 8.3, which I guess to end this all off, I guess I'm the one who's average now. Shit. It went all the way around the table.
That's hilarious. Whoa.
Played myself.
Damn,
That's
bro.
awesome. You got some humility in this motherfucker.
I do it again.
So we could do some plugs if you want. You want to plug the movie Rant Breakers?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's good.
Howdy.
Howdy.
My name's Milo. I use Miniminuteman online. I do archaeology videos, conspiracy debunking videos. I am on YouTube and I am on TikTok at Miniminuteman. It's fun stuff. Come check it out. I make series about, I have a YouTube series, Awful Archaeology, where I go in depth about certain finds and we'll break it down in its entirety. And on TikTok, I more just debunk stupid people making stupid videos. But if you're interested in any of
Average
that, come
motherfuckers.
check me out. Hell yeah, average motherfuckers. All right, now for my audience, you guys give your spiel.
I got you. Thank you for being on the show, bro.
Yeah, cheers, man. This was great.
Pleasure. You go.
Yeah, so I'm fucking John Smith. You already know what the fuck going on. I make music. I'm an artist. I rap. You can always tap in with all my shit at John X Smith. So it's John X Smith on YouTube, John X Smith, MG_John X Smith on Instagram. I also play video games, so I do video game streaming. I'm also on this podcast all the time. We have a show called Hot Takes where we break down movies on YouTube. We have had a little hiatus, but we're gonna jump back into it very soon. So a bunch of different shit, but mostly my music and definitely on YouTube more than anything. Like my videos go crazy, so definitely tap in with those. But I appreciate you coming on the show, bro. Like for real, like
Yeah.
It was really a great opportunity. I reached out to you just to be able to get in touch and see if we can even make this thing happen.
Yeah.
At first, my first statement to you was like, let's find out a way to make like conspiracy theory debunking and like white boy trap music collaboration.
And somehow we did it.
We did it. I want to make a diss track to History 101 on
That would be dope.
but yeah, no. So we ended up
Diss track pending. We'll get to
yeah,
that.
we'll get to it.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool to just be able to collaborate.
Yeah,
with
for sure.
Totally two different fucking spectrums.
Absolutely.
Of the internet, but being able to put them together is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Word. Yeah, I appreciate both of you. I mean, Milo coming up from Rhode Island. We got John Smith coming over from LA. So I appreciate both you guys taking the time to come on the show. And yeah, anybody that wants to talk some shit, say what's up. You can hit me up on Instagram at the Movie Rant Break or One Up What Up. I also, as everybody on the show knows, got the music. You can check it out at oneupwhatup.com to find all the shit. You already know, dropped that album in May, Lily Flower. It's the 91st best album of all time. But yeah, you can just say what's up on Instagram or the website. It's the hub of everything. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can say what's up. I always love when people give recommendations, like at the Movie Rant Break on Instagram. That's how people reach out and talk to me about that. And yeah, fucking dope episode. Really enjoyed having both you on the show and making the effort to come out here and talk about some aliens and Indiana Jones.
For sure.
Shit was lit.
Yeah, no, it was great being here. It was fun to talk about. I know I was telling my friends, they're like, oh, like, who are you going to go talk to? And I used the line that you used about, like, yeah, it's, you know, white boy trap music crossover archaeology. They were like, that sounds insanely bizarre, but fucking go for it. And I was like, this is perfect. This is awesome. So, yeah, no, it's great. It's great to talk about. So I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah, me. It's my show. Fuck him.
All right.
He's a guest.
I'll just like kindly go fuck myself.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here.
Gently go fuck yourself, please. So yeah, if you guys are all good with it, like I said, appreciate y'all. And that's this episode. We got Milo hitting it with an 8.3, staying super average as a man. And we got John Smith over here with an 8.5. Your host hitting it with a 7. That's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Got the Indiana Jones shit. Appreciate everybody. Catch you next episode. Deuces.
Think I smoke too much and it got me out of touch. Not enough, or it looking like too much. Just enough, just enough, just enough. You can call my bluff, but you know I'm headed up. Agave in my cup, and I like when agave in my cup. Drank too much and I bet you throw it up. Throw it up, throw it up, throw it up. You can call my bluff, but you know you throwing up. Never gave a fuck and it never was a crutch. Never gave a fuck, think I just got paid to fuck.
I know that money come and go, so I spend it all. And this bitch they blowing up my phone, so I turn it up. They keep telling me to quit my cup, so I pulled it up. Cause you know it ain't enough, bitch. I don't give a fuck, bitch. I've been drinking too long on God, yeah. I've been with too many bros on God, yeah. I'm so high, I'm stuck on the top floor. Alcohol in my phone, cause this shit's never boring, no. I keep on drinking and drinking, I feel like I've been on some king shit. I'm hitting and I'm ever missing, they calling me Barry, I've been on some big shit. I chat with a bitch in Cabanas, get turned with my clique in Atlanta. Cubana, I fucking Havana, and she let this know like she fucking on Santa, Hannah Montana.
Early in the morning, got the butter on my toast. Hacking up a quarter on my lung, and it's sounding gross. Feeling like I wanna party, I'm a light, I'm no a host. Buffalo chicken dip, guess love the most. With them scoops, ain't our favorite music on the loops. Everybody hood, but nobody alley oops. Dropping bombs, but nobody
shit. Fucks with me. That's just fire. Shout out to James Earl Jones.